right and getting out, it was disorderly. Inflation was a sign of people's disorder, that there wasn't anyone in charge. And, if we learn anything from this, is change is what wins elections. Particularly, people are pointing out, it's a 65% wrong track country. And in a 65% wrong track country, we were offering people the same track.
I mean, so far, I agree with.
And you can say it's easy in hindsight.
I mean, but so far he's just saying that the candidacy sort of doubled down on the Biden candidacy. Everything it did was signaling more of the same. And while there are some parts of the Biden administration that you'd like to see stay in place, like Lena Khan, when there's no answer. I mean, maybe it was all on The View. Do you think it? I mean, Chad, am I exaggerating that? Maybe it was all about what happened on The View. Maybe it's all that question. Like, can you think of anything that you would have done different? And it's just like, not ready to say that about Biden. Maybe she had some thoughts, but just couldn't say them for the awkward position that she's in as the sitting vice president and trying to save what remains of Joe Biden's dignity.
But the basic fundamentals of politics were not being paid attention to. And you're right, the campaign didn't, except for that one answer, which was the money question, by the way.
Well, he thinks it was the money question.
Just say that.
Yeah, no, he's a piece of shit. He's a piece of shit. And I'm guessing his prescription for what to do about this is not going to be the same as Bernie's prescription.
But that one question became the whole definition of the campaign. And, if you answer 99 questions really well, but you get the big one wrong, the outcome is going to be wrong. And, it's easy to say in retrospect, but the reason it's easy to say is because truisms in American politics showed themselves to be, well, what they are, truisms. And
get to your point, Carville. We're here to see Bernie.
The question becomes, where do the Democrats go from here? And we're going to have an answer. Okay, I have an idea. Let's go back to something we use, because we need a leader. There's nobody. I mean, Schumer's not been, really hurt by this because they don't have a majority anymore. And enough Hakeem has majority. There's no Nancy Pelosi that we had in the first term. All right, there's not a identifiable opposition leader. What I suggest we do is something we used to do that we've abandoned for probably good reason, and that is we have
No, don't say racism. Don't say racism. Please don't say racism.
Midterm mini convention. Let's get some of this talent out front.
Get a mini convention? I'm sorry, is he talking about what should have been done?
Let people see it.
What? What is he talking about? He wants to have a convention after the election to cultivate new talent?
Give people something.
I don't think anybody would watch that. Right? What is he talking about?
Give people something to organize around, because right now, the entire party, and when I say the entire party, I mean the not just the leadership, but the rank and file, is dazed, confused. They don't know which way to turn.
They don't know that at the top of every hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. It's an ad break that you can skip for free or for $6 with a Twitch Prime, or with $6, or that you could possibly be gifted a sub to get out of. But it's more likely that that would happen if you were active in the chat. They don't know that.
No heir apparent. There's no, I mean, there's nothing. There's just a giant vacuum. And the only way that you can fill,
yeah, that's the top of the hour ad, the giant vacuum. Exactly. It sucks you right out of the stream.
start somewhere.
It's a bad,
And, people say, well, how are you going to
it's a
select
bad seed.
it? It is going to be everything that Democrats always do. They're going to say, well, you figure out how to select it and, invite 5 people to address the mini convention and get people together and talk, how.
Come on, we're gonna do a mini convention. Get in, losers. Get in, losers. Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg. Get in. Get in. We're doing a mini convention. No, you don't have a choice. No, you don't have a choice. Don't make Nancy Pelosi come over here and drag you by the ear. Get in. We're doing a convention.
How we reorganize, how we redo. But I don't think we're at 4 years. I think we got to do this all in preparation for the midterms and
translate from the Southern for us. This is not my Southern.
Take the lessons that
this is Louisiana Southern.
We didn't learn any new lessons, but boy, did we relearn some old lessons. Wow. But they got to get some assignment, something pushing forward to give us a rallying point for the opposition here. One of the logical places to go there, but there's, all right, don't start laughing when I say this. All right, everybody just calm down. And
you're going to go viral.
If ideally the DNC would come together, elect a chairperson who could articulate the party's vision, who could organize some of this stuff, who could do this and that. We just don't have very much of a history of having a strong Democratic National Committee. But I think what you're saying is a really wise point. Maybe one of the things it could do is somebody of some prestige could call a group of 25 leaders, mostly financiers, but
is it just me or is this fucking weird? Like, it's not a good idea, and it's like
influential people, and
it's random. It's
organizations come make their pitch to them about why they'd be more effective in doing this. But that certainly needs to be a party leader of some sense that there's a process to get one, and we don't have time to just.
Do we need to do a reality show? Is that your solution? That the Democrats should do a reality show just like the Republicans did with Donald Trump? Only this will be the contestants are the potential next Obama, the new O'Bungler.
Let everything develop organically. Some of these issues have to be forced.
What is wrong with this video? How is it so cursed?
I go back and just say, ideally, it certainly no evidence that it would have any role now, but in the ideal world, that would be the best place. Maybe some of the existing organizations.
Did they give him like medical Mary J?
Because I'm associated with American Bridge, but you have Future Forward. You got a lot of different advocacy groups around.
Is this they start the cameras when the edible hit?
But but we have to shake it off, and there's no person to come up with a plan. There's no voice. The party has no voice right now. That's the big problem we have. And the sooner that we can start addressing that, the better we're going to be. And that's why I think a midterm convention would.
A midterm convention. Well, is he talking about one like right now or one before what, 2022?
At least give us some focus. But we're going to have to think differently here. There's no doubt about it. No, I don't. I mean, it's going to be a difficult time here, and they're going to start appointing people, and they're going to be moving the machinery of the levers of power pretty quickly here in a very adversarial way. And they're all criminals. I mean, look at Rudy Giuliani, who's ordered to turn all that over, showing up in it.
Yeah, and how many of these assholes are going to get pardoned?
Mercedes that doesn't even belong to him.
Yeah, 2026.
All these people are going to be pardoned. These criminals are going to be out on the streets. They're going to be glorified. The courts are, I can't tell you how crooked? Do you think that Alito and Thomas and all of them
The Dems' problem is they don't select candidates through battle royale.
just ramp up every gift?
They should play Fortnite, yeah.
Ramp up every corporate interest you can get. Here it comes. And by the way, they have an authority of an election behind them. And we've said this.
So the argument, I don't know what argument he thinks he's making, but to me, this is like, get the fuck out of this country while you can. Find some place you can afford to live and continue your stream from there. That's what I'm hearing. Oh my God, US elections. No. Fucking jump scare.
Before Trump told you what he was going to do. So don't be surprised when he takes off doing it. Don't be surprised. I thought, look, the Iowa poll, I mean,
I thought the Iowa poll was going to save us.
none of it panned out. And, we're going to have to unearth all this. But while it's being unearthed, we got to try to get moving in a better, we got to be an opposition party. That's all there is to it. And we're an opposition party with no power. Well, you know that they're going to slash the shit out of social insurance. You can see that Musk and all these guys, Peter Thiel, they didn't grab the levers of government to keep entitlements in place and to keep taxes on incomes over $500,000. I mean, we're going to have they're going to propose a bunch of unpopular things. Yeah, we'd had the mail issue was an issue. And, we got to figure out there, we didn't do that. No, we didn't. We did not replicate our 2020 coalition. I never thought that we were.
Jabzo, you also have a Waluigi plushie?
Going to do that. But we didn't expand either. And, we got to figure out a way that we deal with this male problem that we have that is really significant, and it's really significant among non-white males and lower income males.
There's like racism in his voice somehow.
I don't really get the entire ramifications of it. But
that's not Bernie Sanders. Okay, I tricked you. This is Bernie Sanders.
Senator Bernie Sanders issued a scathing statement after the vice president's loss in what he called a disastrous.
All right, sorry for tricking you.
It should come as no great surprise.
But I only tricked you a little bit. This is Bernie Sanders.
Democratic Party,
that was James Carville.
Has abandoned working class people.
They're kind of like the opposite of each other.
Find that the working class has abandoned them. And Independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont joins me now. Senator Sanders, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here on this Sunday after Election Day. Let's start right there. Your criticism incredibly direct. You say you think the Democratic Party has, quote, abandoned the working class. How exactly do you think Democrats have abandoned the working class, Senator?
Look, the working people of this country are extremely angry. They have a right to be angry. In the richest country in
Do I remember Bernie's speech in 2003 in front of a bunch of high school kids? No.
the history of the world, today the people on top are doing phenomenally well, while 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and millions of families worry that their kids are actually going to have a lower standard of living than they do. You got the top 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 90%. We're the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all of our people. 25% of our seniors are trying to live on $15,000 a year or less. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. And the gap between the people on top and everybody else is getting wider and wider. And then, Kristen, on top of all of that, we got a corrupt campaign finance system which allows billionaires to buy elections. So if you're an average worker out there, you're saying...
So yeah, if you're looking for what might have had a better chance against Donald Trump, there's an example. Like talking about that.
I'm working longer and longer hours, going nowhere in a hurry, worried about my kids, and yet the people on top have never had it so good. Where is the Democratic Party? Are they prepared to stand up to these powerful corporate interests, raise the minimum wage, fight for health care for all people, make sure that all of our kids get the quality education that they need, expand Social Security? Are they prepared to do those things? That's the issue that we have to address.
Well, as you know, your statement was met with some sharp reaction as well. This is
Some sharp reaction? I wouldn't call this sharp reaction. I would say this is as sharp as oatmeal.
Pelosi had to say. Take a look. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
Bernie Sanders has not won. Let me, with all due respect, and I have a great deal of respect for him, for what he stands for, but I don't respect him saying that the Democratic Party has abandoned the working class families.
Senator, how do you respond to Nancy Pelosi?
Sharp like cheddar.
Well, Nancy's a friend of mine, and we've worked together on many issues. But here is the reality. I have to say,
It's just like Hassan and Jenks' uncle nephew bond thing.
Nancy, in the Senate in the last 2 years, we have not even brought forth legislation to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, despite the fact that some 20 million people in this country are working for less than $15 an hour. In America today, we have not brought, in the Senate, we have not brought to the floor the PRO Act to make it easier for workers to join unions. We're not talking about defined benefit pension plans so that our elderly can retire with security. We're not talking about lifting the cap on Social Security so that we can extend the solvency of Social Security and raise benefits. Bottom line, if you're an average working person out there, do you really think that the Democratic Party is going to the...
You know what's wild is after an entire campaign of neither candidate really confronting the major economic issues this head on. Like, it's like, oh, wait, this is what politics is about. This is what politics is about. And it's about to get really bad. All this shit which should go forward is about to be pushed way back. And all because this didn't get the attention that it deserved. And instead, you know, the idea of a united front with the Cheneys and the Bushes and the neocons was substituted in its place.
Taking on powerful special interest and fighting for you. I think the overwhelming answer is no. And that is what has got to change.
Senator, let me zoom out and just ask you about these results. You've heard some of the reaction throughout the Democratic Party. How much do you personally blame President Biden for this loss?
President Biden, when he came into office, said that he would be the most progressive president since FDR. And I think on domestic issues, not foreign policy, on domestic issues, he has kept his word, and the agenda that he has pushed through has been an extraordinarily strong one. But that agenda has got to be placed within the overall context of American society today. And that American society today is one in which tens of millions of working families and elderly people are struggling, while the people on top have never had it so good.
But, Senator, should he have gotten out of the race more quickly, as some are arguing?
I'm not going to. I supported him because I think his agenda was a strong agenda, a working class agenda. I'm not going to look backwards. Kamala ran a strong campaign. She did everything that she could. She decisively won the...
Yeah, he's staying out of that one.
So to me, it's not just about the campaign. It's about what does the Democratic Party stand for? Do ordinary people say, yeah, that is a party that is fighting for my interest and prepared to take on the big money interest who control the economic and political life of the country? That's to me what the issue is.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about the economics. You've talked about how the Democratic Party is out of touch when it comes to economic issues. Some Democrats are saying it's not just economic issues, it's cultural issues as well. Here's what Democratic strategist James Carville had to say. Take a look.
Oh, here we go.
What killed the Democrats and what killed Biden was a sense of disorder. And part of the sense of disorder was the unfortunate events of what I would refer to as the woke era.
Has the Democratic...
What killed the Democratic Party? Wokeness. That's what he's saying.
Party's focus on identity politics gone too far, Senator?
So, in other words, the loser liberals that have controlled this party since the 1980s have decided to use this loss by their side as grounds, as a pretext to purge the party of everyone to the left of them. And answer the question again, no, the problem was not that we weren't different enough from the Republican Party. The problem is that we weren't similar enough to the Republican Party. Maybe we could even be further to the right than the Republican Party in some ways, right? And I'm sure that Steve Bannon totally won't use that to flank you and turn Donald Trump into the peace candidate when Kamala Harris swears that we will have the most lethal army in all of the world under her administration. Literally got Captain Ginu'd, I hope chat understands the reference, by Steve fucking Bannon. That is wild.
Let me answer it this way. I think if the Democratic Party must continue to stand up against all forms of bigotry. And Democrats should hold their head high in saying, we led the fight for women's rights and to protect the woman's constitutional right for abortion. We led the fight for civil rights, for gay rights. That is something we should be proud of. But it's not either or, Chris, and this is the problem. You can do both. You can say that I'm for raising the minimum wage to a living wage, guarantee health care for all people, expanding Social Security. And by the way, I also support a woman's right to control her own body, etc. It's not either or. It's going forward in both directions.
You know, I've been speaking to some Democrats who are concerned because now President-elect Trump has beaten two women candidates, and their concern is that it will make it more difficult to nominate a woman candidate in the future. Do you share that concern, Senator?
No, I don't. I think it's not a question. Look, I'm not going to deny that there is sexism in this country, that there's racism, there's homophobia. It's there. But on the other hand, I think what the American people want to support, whether it's a woman, a man, a black or a white, or Latino, whatever, is they want to support some
of all the ways to say that, Bernie. Oh my God, it's usually not so obvious that you're 87 or whatever.
Standing up, Kristen, and fighting for them. People are in pain. People are hurting. They can't afford to go to a doctor. They can't afford to send their kids to childcare or to college. They're worried about future generations.
But that being said, he's as fresh as a daisy compared to Biden and Trump. Right, his mental acuity is acute.
What kind of standard of living they will have. Here is the bottom line.
And he's older than either of them.
And it has to be dealt with. You got an economy today doing phenomenally well for the people on top. It is not working for the working class. All right? How do we address those issues? And in the richest country on the history of the world, create an economy that works for all. That is the issue. And by the way, what Trump did in his election is to say, I know that you're hurting, and the reason is they got millions of people coming across the border illegal.
They're taking your shit. They're eating your cat.
They're eating your dogs. They're eating
your cats.
He gave an explanation. It happened to be a pretty crazy explanation. Yes, we got to strengthen the borders, but
older but somehow younger, right?
It's not going to raise wages for working people or provide health care to all people. The Democrats need an explanation, and that explanation is corporate greed and the power of the billionaire class. I know that's uncomfortable.
And they were too afraid to play that card. There's stories about this. There's stories about what happened when Kamala started off talking about price gouging. And she was actually approached by her brother-in-law, an executive at Uber, saying, you got to stay away from that, Kamala. That is a third rail. They will come for you. We will come for you. You cannot do that.
Comfortable for people in the Democratic Party, some people. But that is the issue we have to address.
Senator, quickly before I let you go, I do want to ask you about the Supreme Court. Some Democrats behind the scenes quietly talking about the possibility, should Justice Sotomayor step down, to allow President Biden to appoint someone who's younger. She's only 70 years old. Is that something that you would support? Do you think she should step down?
No, I don't.
Have you heard any talk of this?
A little bit, yes.
But yeah, I mean, like some of the worst advice that she ended up getting came from the Biden administration, members of the Biden campaign team that were supposed to she was given like a campaign out of the box, right? Like open up and unbox your campaign because it's already we're just repackaging Biden's campaign as your campaign, and that's how it's going to work.
I don't think it's a sensible approach.
And you better not do anything to make things awkward because they're already awkward enough.
And you don't think it's a sensible approach?
Correct.
All right. Senator Bernie Sanders, thank you very much for your time this morning and your perspective. We really appreciate it.
Wait, who's only 70? All right, so he was on State of the Union too?
The Democratic Party grapples with their repudiation at the ballot box. Independent Senator Bernie Sanders issued a particularly blistering statement this week, accusing Democrats of abandoning the working class. And Senator Bernie Sanders is here with me now. Hello, Senator. Congratulations on your reelection. Nice to have you here. I want to start with the scathing response that you gave after the Democrats.
Bernie, were you scathing? Oh, Sotomayor is only 70. Yeah, so chat's talking about the discourse about whether Justice Sotomayor should step down and be replaced in the Senate before Trump gets in.
Democrats lost, Kamala Harris lost pretty big. You said the Democrats abandoned the working class. The chairman of the DNC called it straight up BS and said Joe Biden is the most pro-worker president of my lifetime. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi said she disagreed with you. She added, quote, Bernie Sanders has not won. Do you stand by what you said?
Oh, absolutely. Look, Joe Biden is a friend of mine. I've been proud to work with him on an agenda which has been very strongly in favor of the working class. Biden promised to be the most progressive president since FDR in many ways on domestic issues.
So yeah, this is the irony of the Biden administration. First of all, yeah, I mean, he was sadly the most progressive president, in a while, if not since the New Deal, in terms of his economic policy, but his foreign policy left a lot to be desired, even compared to the foreign policy of Obama. Obama, while, the United States was very much on the side of Israel, would hold back some of the, worst behavior of Israel in terms of settlements. And Joe Biden just didn't have it in him to do any of that.
Issues, I think he kept his word. But here is the reality. The working class of this country is angry, and they have a reason to be angry. We are living in an economy today, Donna, where the people on top...
Oh, you just got to that part then. Wow. Sounds like you're watching behind the part where he's like, and the thing that we need to do is, and then I'm like, don't say racism. Don't say racism. You're like, oh, he didn't say go more fash.
Are doing phenomenally well, while 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. 25% of elderly people are trying to get by on $15,000 a year or less. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth, and parents all over this country worry that their kids may have a lower standard of living than they do. That is the economic reality. And what Donald Trump did is provided an explanation. He went around, he said, I know you're angry, and the reason is that zillions of illegal immigrants are coming over, and they're eating your cats and dogs and everything else. That's
oh no.
Well, obviously, that
I mean, this is a little bit of a stump speech, or is this Bernie's hot five? It doesn't, like, you see him once and you realize it's the same, it's his set. He's doing his set. That's what it is.
It's not the reason. The reason is, in my view, that we have an unprecedented level of corporate greed today, more income and wealth inequality. And people on top want it all. And we need an agenda that says to the working class, we're going to take on these powerful special interests and create an economy and a government that works for you. And by the way, that can't happen unless you get big money out of politics. We got to get rid of the Citizens United Supreme Court decision so billionaires do not continue to buy elections.
And I know that you heard President Biden and Vice President Harris tout over and over the record of supporting workers, helping the middle class, some of the things that you were instrumental in helping pass, like lowering the cost of insulin. You saw the president walking a picket line. They forgave student loan debt as much as they could. You said yourself in July that he had a strong record, which you just repeated here.
But again, as strong as they could is questionable, right? Biden went the more acceptable route towards forgiving student loan, which might have been the less successful route.
So it sounds like it's not maybe as much about policies and more about messaging and communication?
It's not messaging, Donna. It's a fundamental understanding of saying, look, the Biden administration has done a lot of good things, period. We should all be proud of that. But it has to be put in the broad context of the reality of the American economy today. And that is when you have three people on top owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society. When you have...
And one of them has just risen to a place of great influence within the executive branch of the government.
Millions and millions of
one has just bought himself a president.
People working for starvation wages. You got to speak to that reality. So you could say, look, we're proud of what we have accomplished, but we have so much more to do to create the kind of government and nations that work for all of us and not just the few. That's my critique. It's not that the Biden administration did not do a lot of good things, but it has to be put into an overall context where in the last 50 years, if you can believe it, real weak inflation accounted for weekly wages are lower today than they were 50 years. A massive transfer of wealth from the bottom 90% to the top 1%. That's not Joe Biden's fault. It's not Trump's fault. That's what's going on.
Does it really surprise you, POV, for me to say that Trump is bought and paid for? Are you really surprised about that? The guy is in hock. The guy has got like legal cases coming out of his ass, right? And he gets bailed out by not just Elon Musk, but I mean, look at the amount of stuff that he's selling. What other presidential candidate have you ever seen selling gold watches, selling $70 Bibles, selling NFTs after everybody knows that NFTs is a scam? What's going on there? There's people putting money in his pocket. What do you think's up with that? What do you think is up with that? No, he's just doing business. He's just selling. It's just, commerce, right? The president's allowed to have merch, right? No, there's nothing going on here. Those watches aren't fucking overpriced. Come on. How silly are you? How silly are you to not see Donald Trump for the swamp creature that he is and has always been? How silly are you?
Gone on for 50 years. Recognize it. Deal with it. Tell the working class that you understand what is going on in their lives. You're going to fight for them.
The top aide, former aide to...
Am I mad about business? I'm mad about bribery.
And Harry Reid.
I'm mad about corruption, especially a guy who went into the office pretending that he was going to fight corruption.
Jenelson told the Washington Post that Democrats are preoccupied with the narrow interest of college-educated elite activists more than everyday working people.
There are freaking
Do you agree with that?
invading radicals.
Normal vertical integration, says Anno Domini. Yeah.
60% of our people live in paycheck to paycheck. How do we not talk and fight for raising the minimum wage to a living wage? Donna, on Tuesday in the election, in the state of Missouri, a conservative state, they became one of the many states that voted, I think, 58% to raise the minimum wage. Now, how is it that in Congress and the Senate, we haven't even brought a damn minimum wage bill?
Sorry about all the stream alerts, chat. My stream is just popping off here. I guess a lot of you are subscribing, so thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Once again, I'm thanking you for your support.
onto the floor. We are the only.
And if you want to follow that up with a $27 super chat, that's fine as well. But no, I'm
major country on earth not to guarantee health care.
Wow.
But now there are freaking
Unpopular today. Unpopular today. Thank you. Thank you so much. I feel this is what it feels like to, what do they call that when they ask you to like take another bow, or like you play a song and people really like an encore? Yeah. Like, anyway.
Right. The Affordable Care Act is a stopgap measure. It is not addressing the real healthcare crisis in America. Why aren't we saying, yes, healthcare is a human right? We're going to take on the insurance companies and the drug companies. We're going to pass the PRO Act to make it easy.
Mom POV, why would I have a debate when I can easily dunk on you from chat? And more enjoyably, too. I don't have to listen to your boring ass try to debate me.
Easier for workers to join unions. We're going to expand Social Security by lifting it up. We're going to demand that
we're doing content here, not platforming nobodies. What do you think?
Their fair share of taxes. You know, Dana, all of these issues that I'm talking about, these are not Bernie Sanders ideas. These are, without exception, popular ideas that Democrats, Republicans, and independents support. Now, the people who don't support it is the billionaire class, and they got a lot of power. But we've got to be prepared to take them on.
But what the voters supported is a man who would never do any of what you just said. I mean, not even close.
Right. But what that man named Donald Trump did do is he said, I feel your pain. I know that you're hurting, and I have an explanation. Well, his explanation.
Well, okay, so here it is. And I don't know if Bernie's going to get to this, right? But something's going wrong, and someone is at fault. And we could either try to blame the people that are actually at fault for the reason that Americans are miserable, capitalists, or we could pretend that that's not the issue at all, and we could blame the most vulnerable people in society, the people who literally feed us every day, the people without whom our economy doesn't fucking work. We could demonize them. We could demagogue against them. We could throw them under the bus as some kind of sacrificial right that does fucking nothing. And then when it doesn't work and it doesn't improve anything, we can find another group to demonize. Rinse and repeat. There's a name for that, isn't there? Isn't there? Isn't that something that we've seen before historically? That sounds really similar to another time period that I can't quite remember right now, and would probably get me demonetized to say.
Was bogus. You know, it's millions of people coming across the borders illegal. We have to strengthen the borders. That goes without saying, but that is not the cause.
That's not the problem, Bernie.
The cause of the problem right now is to have a...
And also, caving into Trump does not help anything. If people want to vote for Trump, they will vote for Trump. If people are like blaming immigrants for all of our problems, then they're going to vote for Trump. There's no fucking point in caving in on this issue. And it's pathetic. And it breaks the trust with any other group in your coalition. Oh, yeah, you know, when it's convenient, you're going to be thrown under the bus. You're going to be thrown on the fuck under the bus.
A whole number of people on top who have enormous economic and political power. How, for example, can the Democrats not say, look, we got to get rid of the Citizens United? Mm-hmm. In this campaign, in the Republican Party, Democratic Party, billionaires exerted their power. Most
like Democrats need to find a way to giga Chad. They never do that shit. It's the opposite.
Americans know that's wrong. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so we've talked about the economic issues, which, of course, that's number one. Then there's the social and cultural divide that seems to be happening between a lot of people in America who used to support the Democrats and what is now the Democratic Party, or what's perceived to be the Democratic Party. White voters largely propelled Trump to victory in the race, but there was a major shift. The exit polls showed that Latino voters, especially Latino men, shifted more towards Donald Trump. Biden won them by 23 points in 2020. This year, Trump won them by 12. I want you to listen to what a Latino voter told my colleague Ed Lavandera this week.
We believe in, teaching our kids about God, our Christian values, family values. And the Democratic Party is embracing all the woke, left-leaning ideas that it doesn't go with our values.
Do you think it's the Democrats pushing Latinos to Trump, or is it Trump bringing in Latinos?
I think more Democrats are pushing Latinos to Trump.
What do you think of that?
Well,
Yeah, just break up the coalition. Like, pick the winners and the losers, throw somebody under the bus, and then rinse and repeat, because that's what you're going to do.
But now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
First, they came for the communist invading radicals, but I didn't care, because I wasn't a communist invading radical. But it didn't stop with that. It continued, and eventually they came for me as well. But that's okay. I can fuck around and find that out later, right?
But now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
Because being a fucking coward has worked great for the electoral left so far. That's worked out really fucking great ever since the 1980s. What a successful technique.
that Trump has done a good job in claiming that Democrats do nothing more than the woke agenda. In my view, what Democrats have got to focus on, and tell that gentleman, do you want a minimum wage that's a living wage? Do you think health care is a human right? Do you think we should build the affordable housing that we need? Do you think we should take care of...
Did you notice, though, it looked like they went to a business owner, which is not a typical... It is not a typical profession. That is not a typical occupation. That is not... Like, right, they go and find a business owner. They go and find a capitalist to say that. Yeah, I mean, I guess it may, depending on his scale of things, it maybe makes sense for him. Like maybe a minimum wage. He's not the guy to sell on something like a minimum wage.
Seniors by expanding Social Security. So I think the emphasis has got to be, of course, on wiping out all forms of bigotry. The Democrats should be proud of standing up for women's rights and abortion rights and gay rights and civil rights. But the emphasis got to be is to make it clear that we are prepared to stand with the vast majority of the people, many of whom are falling further and further behind, while the people on top do phenomenally well. That's a message that, in my view, will resonate with the Latino community and the entire working class community.
Let me give one example, perhaps, of this kind of dynamic that we're hearing about. Joe Rogan, very popular podcaster, he endorsed...
Wait, is she going to play the Theo Von clip?
Donald Trump in the final days of the election. 4 years ago, you went on his podcast.
Can you imagine if she plays the Theo Von clip and she's like, so answer, why do? If you don't know, Theo Von had a... had a question for Joe Rogan about the Jews. That's...
You got a lot of blowback for doing that and for touting that he endorsed you. So is this the kind
Wait, is she going to show a Joe Rogan clip?
of example of Democrats?
Or is she just mentioning that Joe Rogan endorsed him back in the day?
Perhaps shunning or vilifying people who don't totally agree with them?
Yeah, I think that's...
Yes, I think cancel culture is very real. The woke scolds, that woke scolds must be dealt with.
Fair enough. Look, you can have an argument with Rogan, agree with him.
They come around and they tell me Vosh bad. But I think they have Vosh derangement syndrome, frankly. I think that they are a bunch of woke scolds. They do not know that those clips that they have been sharing are actually clips made by Nazis. And they are taken out of context as well.
Disagree with him.
I'm sorry, chat. I give you the most cursed thing I could. You didn't deserve that. You didn't deserve that. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You didn't need Voshite. You didn't need VGG Bernie, did you?
Problem going on in those shows.
You could have done without that.
It's hard for me to understand that. So I think we've got to get, and clearly you have an alternative media out there, a lot of podcasts that have millions and millions of viewers. Get on the show. Disagree with you here.
How did Joe Rogan become so famous? I mean, I'm going to say MMA.
Agree with you there. I don't see...
Like, I think that Joe Rogan's, like, ascent to influence, kind of tracks with MMA.
A problem in doing that. And you're right. I got vilified by some of the Democratic establishment because I went on...
Because of the cancel culture. Donna, the cancel culture.
Now, a lot of other people are doing just that.
Before I let you go, you were a steadfast supporter of Joe Biden. You were saying that he should not drop out. There's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking going on, and a lot of it is that
Yeah, I don't think he's going to bite. He didn't bite last time.
he should have dropped out earlier or perhaps never run for a second term.
I don't want to get involved in that. You know, we got to look forward and not in the back. Kamala did her very best. She came in, she won the debate with Trump. She worked her as hard as she possibly could. Let's look to the future and not go backwards.
Senator Bernie Sanders.
That never sounds like that's never a good answer, whether it's from J.D. Vance, Kamala Harris, or Bernie Sanders. Like, let's look forward and never look back. That always sounds like such bullshit. That always sounds like such bullshit. Anyways, chat, sorry for Voshifying it all.
Anyway, brutal words for her fellow liberals from Democratic strategist Julie Rodzinski. Let's hear what this is about.
Oh, here we go.
I'm going to speak some hard truths to my friends in the Democratic Party. This is not Joe Biden's fault. It's not Kamala Harris's fault.
I mean, it is. It is on both accounts.
It's not Barack Obama's fault. It is the fault of the Democratic Party in not knowing how to communicate effectively to voters.
Did Rogan ever fight? Not in the UFC, but he trained. He trained Taekwondo and Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai, I think.
They're not the party of common sense, which is what the message that voters sent to us, for a number of reasons.
And the other thing about Joe Rogan is, like, even though he was never really like he was never a contender or really like in the UFC, he does this one kick that, like, better than anyone else. It's like a turning side kick is what it's called. I think it's a Taekwondo technique. And he supposedly he taught it to George St. Pierre.
Let me guess. Is it? Wait, hold on. Is she going to say it's because we're not common sense party because we're too pro-trans? That's what it is, right?
For a number of reasons, we don't know how to speak to voters. When we address Latino, and language, listen, language has meaning. When we address Latino voters as Latinx.
No! Who's doing that? Like, are they doing that? I don't even know who's doing this. I've never done it, okay? I don't know who they are talking about. Why are they literally going, you know what? It's just the Democrats are too woke. Do these guys only watch the Ben Shapiro show? Are they the only people who watch Daily Wire? They all watch Bill Maher and the Daily Wire, and they're just like getting all their talking points from these charlatans. I think there was one time where Kamala Harris said pronouns she, her, hers. You know, that's it. And they lasered in on it. A video from, like, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. What the who gives a shit, man? Who cares? First of all, I'm just imagining Joe Biden saying Latinx, and that's pretty funny. To all the Latinx out there, Jack, I'm sending your back over the border too. We have the most right-wing border bill. And all you Latinx folk, you're going to learn today. Wake the up. This is what the narrative war will look like. These are not honest comments. These are neoliberals crafting the...
Oh, yeah. They're looking for somebody to blame, because if the other option is to blame neoliberals, the other option is to call it as dead of an ideology as neoconservatism is. The way that neoconservatives like Liz Cheney had no juice, no aura in this last election, got Kamala Harris no votes because they have no constituency. I want to see neoliberalism wrecked on those same shores and torn apart by this, wait, what are they called in Odysseus? The sirens. Yeah. That's what I want to see.
They cannot acknowledge this is a lack of class-focused universal policy goals. No, I am awake. What do you mean? I'm very much seeing that. That's why I'm spending a decent amount of time explaining exactly why the fuck it's happening, saying exactly what you just said, and telling you that, like, this is idiotic. This is a cynical right-wing framing instead of accurately addressing the real problems that the Democratic Party has. They're just going, it's because we were too woke. It's because we were too woke. No, it's not.
Because that's the politically correct thing to do. It makes them think that we don't even live on the same planet as they do. When we are too afraid to say that, hey, college...
I mean, this is why you cannot trust this, like, corporate...
But now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
this appropriation, this corporate appropriation,
but now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
Of like signs and signals of
Because it was so peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
of progress, right? This is why you cannot trust that shit. They throw it up on their you know, on their pride sales in order to appeal to an audience that they're not getting. And then when it blows up in their face, they throw those same people under the fucking bus. It's not real. The Democrats' like support for marginalized groups is not real. Like in some ways, although they're a less harmful alternative to the Republican Party, a less draconian version of that, there is nothing really good about them that is going to stick.
Kids, if you're trashing a campus at Columbia University because you're unhappy about...
There we go. We got to be more repressive against free speech. That's what we should have done. We should have joined... But the Democrats did. The Democrats absolutely did. This was like a bipartisan effort to shut college kids up from expressing any kind of moral conscience, because we can't have that. We can't have any sort of empathy expressed towards Palestinians. That is fucking dangerous.
Some sort of policy, and you're taking over a university. And
it's because the college campus students were too woke? Dude, I'm done. Dude, you need to be exiled, okay? You need to be humiliated every day for the rest of your life. You need to be...
Sounds like a call to action.
...tarred and feathered if you legitimately think that this is why the Democrats...
Somebody call Dan Clancy.
It's the opposite.
Hassan's doing it again.
Idiot. They just kept sidestepping the Palestine question every single time. What are you talking
about? Get me Dan Saltman.
We're talking about a country.
Get me Asmongold. Oh God, we're supposed to watch it. Did we watch that?
Where 80% of the Democratic Party's base of support wants a ceasefire and knows that stopping weapons transfers is the only way to stop Benjamin Netanyahu from doing a genocide. 54% of
that's in the
agree with
that's in the sub goal.
70% of independents. And this dipshit is like, we just weren't sufficiently pro-Israel. That's what the issue is. We should have killed those students. That's how we would have won the election. It's like, yeah, you're so evil. You're evil. You're an evil person, okay? You are an evil charlatan. You're not only incompetent, but you're malicious. And this is the only thing your parents are watching. Just remember that. The only thing your parents are watching is this kind of dumb, nonsensical bullshit that deflects the actual responsibility away and just looks at the problem and says, you know what it is? We just didn't do more of the thing that actually made people annoyed with us. This is terrifying. I really did not assume that...
It's just wild that they think that, like, so if you don't know, the Democratic Party has been on a 40-year trajectory towards making themselves more and more like the Republican Party. And every time they get further right, the Republican Party moves further right as well. This opens that space in the Overton window and closes it on the other side. In other words, it's digital McCarthyism on steroids. And it leaves us with no good options. And honestly, like, if your choice is between the Republican Party and the Republican Party light, you're gonna tend to choose the real thing.
They would be so quick to immediately go, no. What you don't understand is we weren't right-wing enough.
And you're trashing it and preventing other students from learning that is unacceptable. But we're so worried about alienating one or another cohort in our coalition that we don't know what to say when
Yeah, we were worried about alienating the Palestinians. Oh my God! We were so worried about alienating the pro-Palestinian movement. These people are speaking to zero constituencies. There is no
That's what I'm saying.
Constituency for this kind of sentiment. And they're actively trying to create one within the Democratic Party. The real constituency for this kind of sentiment is in the Republican Party. And what they're doing is going on CNN to actively get your parents to agree with this reactionary attitude. Okay.
Normal people look at that and say, wait a second, I send my kids to college so they can learn, not so that they can burn buildings and trash lawns, right? And so on and so forth. When we put pronouns after names and say she, her, as opposed to saying, you know what, if I call you by the wrong pronoun, call me out. I'm sorry. I won't do.
I'm sorry.
Now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
The Democratic Party's not doing that. What are you talking about?
Do it again, but stop with the virtue signaling and just speak to people like they're normal. There's nothing I'm going to say to Michael that I'm not going to say to you, that I'm not going to say to somebody else. I speak the same language to everybody.
Stop with the virtue signaling. Stop with the woke
The vice signaling.
mind virus. That's awesome. These guys are deeply unserious, dude. There's never a moment where you are supposed to talk about this. There's no reason to talk about this. It's not a real issue. Republicans desperately try to turn this into a
She's literally sharpening the weapons in the Republicans' arsenal.
real issue. And when you actually respond to it, you are a f***ing idiot, okay? And responding to it, even to defend it, is stupid. Just so you understand. I need you to understand it. Responding to it, even to defend it, is stupid. You're losing the argument. Responding to it and agreeing with it is not only stupid, but also cruel. And I know that this person is deliberately doing this because this is the exit ramp for these careerist pieces of shit in the Democratic Party. It's not our fault.
This is the Anna Kasparian effect.
Activists. We hired the activists. We listened to the activists too much. You're a f***ing asshole. You're a goddamn charlatan, and you lost the fascists again, and you're going to lose to them again and again and again. And in every single defeat, you are going to marginally creep towards their direction every single time, year over year. Shut the f*** up about this woke nonsense, okay? You dumb f***. Shut the f*** up. This is not a real issue at all. People want more money in their pockets. People want health care. People want housing that is affordable and readily available. And you're over here being like, it's because the college campus students were protesting too hard. You lost Michigan, dumbass. Think about why. It's so stupid. It is so goddamn infuriating to see these demons every single day, just without a shred of doubt, without even just no self-reflection whatsoever. Just go on television, put on your fucking suit, and just go, you know, real centrism hasn't been tried. The problem is we're not close enough to the Republican Party. When Kamala Harris literally was like, I am Nikki Haley, okay? I am Nikki Slaley. Please vote for me. I am Nikki Haley. I love Liz Cheney. Please vote for me. And then the voters looked at that and were like, no, I'm not actually. I'm just going to sit at home. F you. This is insane. Every single one of these dipshits need to be fired immediately.
Yeah, they're learning the exact wrong lesson. The people that they're embracing are the people that they should be trying to distance themselves for or even, you know, strategically punch right at, right? Liz and Dick Cheney are examples of the people that both parties have agreed fucking suck. And yet that's who they go for.
Every single one. Oh my God.
But that's not.
What's next? Mitt Romney? We're going to get Mitt Romney?
Democrats do.
Get Mitt Romney to endorse the Democratic candidate.
Constantly try to parse out different ways of speaking to different cohorts.
I've talked to Vice President Harris, and I have determined that she is on board with my obviously true statement that corporations are people, my friend. And so, as such, I have no problem endorsing her for President of the United States.
It's because our focus groups or our polling shows that so-and-so appeals to such and such. That's not how normal people think. It's not common sense. And we need to start...
Like, these people have gotten cooked, and they are dry political husks with no aura and no juice and no motion. And there's no reason that the Harris campaign should have been taking on fucking dead weight like that.
Being the party of common...
Like, masquerading right-wing sentiment as common sense, also another, like, very obvious strategy of the right, for the record.
...sense again. Joe Biden is not responsible for that. Neither is Kamala Harris. It is a problem that Democrats have had for years. I've been banging the drum on this for, I don't know how, probably 10 years, if not longer on this. We need to get back to being the party of common sense, that people look at us and say, we understand you. We appreciate what you say because you speak our language. And until we do that, we should stop blaming other people for our own mistakes.
This is from the Newsbusters, by the way. The managing editor of Newsbusters posted this. I wonder why. Yeah, if you look at the if you look at people that are replying and agreeing with it.
Yeah, I mean, I voted for Harris because I am a. Wait, sorry, I'm trying to read chat here. Saw a meme somewhere. They had the 2028 Democratic ticket would be Romney and Cheney, yeah, or like Bloomberg. Remember when Bloomberg ran? I voted Harris because I'm a loyal as hell Democratic voter. You don't have to be loyal. I mean, it's like less bad, right? The Democrats winning is less bad than the Republicans winning. However, they aren't able to do it. They have the wrong instincts to win, and they have the wrong instincts to govern.
It's because Newsbusters is a right-wing outlet. What are you talking about? It's like this is a hatchet job. She was a Fox contributor on The Five. Democratic strategist, dude. Nice. I mean, these guys are, why are they in the
Wait, what? Democratic strategist and she was working for Fox News? Nice.
Democratic Party. Like,
nice.
What the fuck is going on? They're not Democrats. They're not even remotely woke. They're not liberal at all. They don't give a shit. How the did the Trump era excise all the country club Republicans, and the Democrats were like, oh my God, this is amazing. Please come to my party, please. We will hire all of you. I despise these demons, dude. I despise them. Yeah, here.
Yeah, they learned the wrong lesson from Bernie, and they learned the wrong lesson from Trump.
Here's the outcome, by the way, of consistently tailoring your message around how Arab voters and Muslim voters and their family members need to be killed. Harris lost Michigan by 82,000 votes. 100,000 Michiganders voted uncommitted in the primary. I saw another take, okay? I need you to hear how insane this is.
And I think there was this very powerful ad, the Republican Jewish Coalition, that was all over the airwaves. A bunch of women sitting around, Jewish women, just saying, I can't stand him, but I felt like we were supporting Israel and we were stronger and we were tougher. And I think that resonates with people.
And then to your point, the ad that came out that was beating...
did I witness the House under the rule of the Repubs? What do you mean? You mean like under Mike Johnson? Or did something happen today?
Fear about Israel not being protected. There was never a response from the campaign on that, but I thought it was a big mistake. Amanda Berman from Zioness had to raise money to run her own ad.
Yeah, dude, shut the fuck up. You're such a bought and sold charlatan, Van Jones.
I thought he was going to say you're such a bot. I mean, that kind of works too.
My dick, whatever her name is from Zioness, you went to that special interest group's party because you want to do this. This is why he's doing this, okay? His entire goal on this panel is to just like try and spear dick this obviously completely ridiculous narrative to be like, actually Kamala Harris wasn't sufficiently pro-Israel. It's so really damaging for the campaign. And then the absolute idiots that watch this that work at the top of the Democratic Party are like, I guess that's true. Like, who are you fooling, dude? What are you doing? This is, for the record, part of the reason why people don't want to watch the news anymore. They don't want to watch your because when you are sitting and watching a CNN panel, and I love CNN. I watch CNN all the goddamn time. Okay, you know this. I have friends that work at CNN. I think CNN is fine overall. But like when I hear this I'm like, come on. Who is this for, brother? What are you saying? Kamala Harris wasn't sufficiently pro-Israel? What are you saying? Oh, I'm sorry. She didn't say am Israel high on at the DNC platform. I guess that's why she wasn't sufficiently pro-Israel. Like who is this for, brother? Who is this for? I know who is for. I know what you're doing. Let me tell you who this is not for. American Jews who voted overwhelmingly for the Democratic Party. 80% overwhelmingly. Okay. Because guess what? Turns out the Haaretz poll, or I think it was the Times of Israel poll that came out a couple months prior, was correct. Israel is not their top priority. Okay. You know why? Because they're American Jews, okay? They're not Jews in Israel. They are Jews in America. They're American citizens. I hate this woke dual loyalty narrative coming from these dumb. They don't live there. If they cared about Israel that much, they'd be living in Israel, okay? Crazy to me that they were just like, they let Trump claim that he was anti-war. Like, I cannot begin to tell you how psychotic that is. One day, Democrats will understand. Hope
they let Trump successfully signal to Arab and Muslim communities that he was somehow going to stop what's going on in Gaza and to pro-Israel communities, which, like, again, when we're talking about Zionism, we're not mainly talking about Jewish people in the United States. The majority of American Zionists are evangelical Christians. Again, a cohort that's already with Donald Trump. But I mean, this is the failure on both sides that that happened in this election, right? Both sides end up angry at you when you try to ride this mythical fence.
That lesser,
which given that that's what Biden's already been saying, just signals to everyone that you're not going to do shit about what's happening in Gaza. And all Trump has to do is go into Michigan and say something fucking vague. And he's got people thinking, hey, obviously Biden and Harris aren't helping. Maybe Trump will.
Evil voting and
messed up
narratives do not get off seats. And if they don't learn this, they're going to constantly they're going to just do fascist light. Simone Sanders asked Donnie Deutsch what he means by the Democrats have to move to the center, which is good. I'm glad that Simone Sanders is asking this question, because this is a question that should be asked of every single person that goes, no, you don't understand. We got to abandon some of these causes. They keep saying it, but what do they mean by that? Does that mean you have to be more racist? Does that mean you have to be transphobic? Because it's not like they were openly and outwardly pro-trans. They didn't prominently display pro-trans sentiment all over their campaign. That didn't happen. So what do they mean by that?
We're also fed up with very super progressive attitudes. I think the Democrats, Joe, going back to your initial question, and you may disagree with this, I think they need to move to the center. I think the
What
center.
does that mean, though? When you say they need to move to the center, what do they need? Are you saying that they should not support trans people? Like, let's just be specific, because that's what the ads are doing.
That's on MSNBC, by the way. That's on MSNBC. He's saying we got to move to the center on MSNBC. It's supposed to be the Fox News of the left. It's wild to openly be able to say this without like any consideration to what just took place. Kamala Harris did this already, and she got destroyed. And you got charlatans on the main stage going, no. The problem is real liberalism hasn't been tried yet. Real tacking to the center, real moderation hasn't been tried yet. Kamala Harris's campaign in 2024 was objectively to the right of Joe Biden's successful campaign in 2020. The way she communicated about immigrants versus the way he communicated about immigrants. Real centrism has not been tried. We will get there. Now, I want you to understand something. I want the Democrats to be a counterweight towards accelerating fascism. Okay? I want there to be a competent fighting Democratic Party, because if they are not, if they keep losing, they're going to keep letting the Republican charlatans run the goddamn show. That's what I want. I don't care about ideological purity. I don't care about not agreeing with most of the Democratic Party's platform. I don't care. I just want them to actually fight. When I say harm reduction as a strategy is unsuccessful in motivating people to go out and vote for you, I'm not just saying that because I'm cynically proposing this because I'm like some secret leftist and I want the Democrats to be Marxist, Leninist. I'm saying that because I know that it has been a demonstrable failure time and time and time again. And I want the Democrats to not lose to the Republicans every time. I want them to fight, okay? At the very least, fight. And yet, instead of running an
now we're gonna get into some Cenk Uygur in just a second. Like he's been on one of these. He's had a similar arc to what we're seeing from these I I guess, Democratic Party and media figures, right? He's been on a similar arc in terms of punching left. So we're going to check that out in a second, but...
Davy Cliff super chatted $9.99. Are the Dems just controlled opposition?
Controlled opposition is one way of saying it. The way that Cenk Uygur used to say it is that the Democrats were the Washington Generals. Now, that might not make a lot of sense. It doesn't sound like, is that even a real sports team? It is. It's the team that the Harlem Globetrotters used to play against. And if you're not familiar with the reference, I think it's kind of like if you imagine if WWE existed for basketball. It's sports entertainment. It's not real sports. It's somewhat, rehearsed. It's somewhat scripted, right? So the Harlem Globetrotters were the heroes, and the Washington Generals were the team that they'd play against. So somehow, like every single time, they would find a way to lose to them. They would be pathetic, and that's the Democratic Party to a T. That was one good take at one time that Cenk actually did have.
Autopsy on what took place. These guys are immediately rushing to every mainstream outlet they can go to deliver this false narrative that like they just didn't do the right kind of centrism.
Are the Harlem Globetrotters still around? I have no idea.
They didn't go far enough with the centrism. They were
it's just a Cenk Uygur reference as far as I
woke. That's what the issue was. Look how red the country is. And it's like, no, dumb. The country is not shifting to the right on priorities or the way that they're voting. There's plenty of people who you are just leaving aside, that you have written out of the calculation because you are making a false choice. You think you can win with the suburbs. You think you can win with just like the rich white people. And you can't. Historically, that has not been the Democratic Party's bread and butter. I said this over and over again. I said that this move, this Liz Cheney hug and kiss the Republican strategy, is going to hemorrhage the base of support. The bottom is going to fall out. You're not going to have high urban turnout. You're not going to have black turnout. You're not going to have black and brown turnout, youth turnout. You're not going to have white people that normally would go out and vote for you, go out and vote for you.
And you're also not going to have the part of the base that usually does the majority of the canvassing and the ground game and all that stuff that's important and all that stuff that was shown to be successful in swing states. Because if we look at the margins of loss or the lost votes from Kamala Harris in the swing states, they're less pronounced than the margin of error elsewhere in the country. In other words, where there was a ground game, the Democrats got more votes. The people that do that ground game for you are the activists, are the ones who are going to give a fuck about issues like Gaza. So there's a bit of a multiplier effect in how bad Biden's foreign policy was and how little Kamala Harris was able to signal any sort of differentiation with it.
Because you're not saying something to them directly. You're not addressing the issues that they're experiencing. You're just talking about civility. You're just making vague gestures towards how the system is actually fine. We just got to fix it. The economy's rebounding. The economy's rebounding. If people are feeling the pain, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many times you say the economy is rebounding. Yeah, if someone is making $100,000 a year, they're probably in a better position overall than many of the people that don't feel that way. And for them, institutions must be defended, sure. But for many others, it's pretty obvious. Wages have remained stagnant for far too long. And now
Kamala put forward a real agenda. Look, I'm not like a Kamala Harris basher, all right? I've heard people say that they don't think that she's a good candidate, that they don't think that she is well spoken, that they don't think that she has the political instincts. I disagree. I disagree that she's not charismatic. I think she is. I think she's extremely charismatic. However, the campaign that was run, which was not the campaign that she seemed to want to run. Remember early Brat Summer, Kamala Harris? Remember how different that person was? Do you know what changed? Two things. Biden's campaign staff got to her, told her she was doing it wrong, and she believed them. So she pivoted. And the second thing is that corporate execs approached her, donors approached her, right? People approached her saying, we don't like this message that you're going to go after corporations. We don't like this message that you're going to go after price gouging. Please tone it down because you don't want us to be enemies, right? And she brings in Mark freaking Cuban to show how not enemies they are. You know, Mark freaking Cuban, the guy that wants to get Lena Khan fired, right? The best parts of the Biden administration, the fact that Biden is the most progressive Democrat since, like, well, he claims since FDR. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you could argue LBJ, FDR, but just like LBJ, Biden's foreign policy was terrible, and I believe was the Achilles heel of the Biden and then Harris campaign. There was a difference. So yeah, it's not, just understand this is not me bashing Kamala Harris, although I've got my, I'm sure I have my differences with her. I think it was more of her letting the wrong people get in her ear. The people that have been losing, the loser liberals that have been running the Democratic Party ever since the 80s, got to her and gave her the wrong answers, and she took it. And now you make Liz Cheney your vice president. Good job. At the end of the day, the buck does kind of stop with her. Like, she ostensibly has control over it, but I do not envy the position that she's placed in, being the sitting vice president, having a very awkward situation of the sitting president being pushed out of the nomination process, despite the fact that he thinks he's got it. He's fine. He's going to win this he's going to win this election. I don't exactly envy her position, but
now there are freaking communists.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that campaign was cursed. Was it as bad as Trump's campaign? No, and that's something to talk about.
It was so peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communists.
Trump's campaign was all gaffes, and somehow, maybe through the underlying sense of like economic uncertainty created by the fact that inflation raised prices, and then the corporations took a little extra. They gouged. And even now, when prices are coming down, when inflation is coming down, the prices are not actually coming down, right? People feel that, along with the fact that they haven't, in aggregate, United States workers have not gotten a raise since the 70s in terms of real money. The amount of money that an average worker is taking home has not gone up, partially because there's no rise in the minimum wage. Hasn't been one forever. The economy has gone up. The production of workers has gone up. They just haven't gotten cut in for that. And that's a difference between the Democratic Party in the post-New Deal era and the Democratic Party in the post-Reagan era.
Inflation has outpaced the wage growth.
That's what's wrong. That's what's wrong. The Democratic Party has moved to the fucking right. And nobody wants diet MAGA. That doesn't sound good. No, thank you. If they want MAGA, they'll go get MAGA. MAGA's available. They do not need to, there's no constituency for diet MAGA.
That people have,
and unfortunately, that is what we were offered.
People have seen.
And yeah, is diet MAGA less harmful? Does it have less calories than actual MAGA? Sure, but it's not. You can't sell it. Nobody wants to buy it. It's bad. It's a bad product.
Before the election, I've been arguing with my dad about how the Dems should tack left instead of right to win more votes. He would not budge. After Tuesday's results, he agreed with me that the Dems need to go more left to win in 2028. I think the liberals on the ground are starting to see this while the pundits and analysts don't. Yeah, the liberals on the ground are shaking from this experience.
Dog Mitzwin, it was all gaffes. It was the motherfucker compared his January 6th event favorably. In other words, saying that he had more people in attendance than Martin Luther King in the I Have a Dream speech. That should have ended him. But he's running against incompetent opposition, apparently. They can't figure out one or two things that just stand out like that and illustrate who the fuck Donald Trump as a person is and drill in on that. That's how you beat Donald Trump. They ran a campaign that was a lot more like the Hillary Clinton campaign than it was like the Joe Biden campaign. And they got numbers that were a lot closer to Hillary Clinton's numbers. Maybe even worse. Is it worse than Hillary?
This defeat. But
I'm not sure.
Understand something. They're still primed. They're still tuned into MSNBC. So,
but NCC then explained to me how I can get austerity measures and favoring corporations over people, but still feel self-righteous about myself.
All it's going to take is like 8 weeks of MSNBC coverage talking about how Liz Cheney and Kamala Harris did a fantastic job, and it was America that was far too racist to vote for her. And there is some truth to that that narrative, but you have to outcompete that. There's nothing you can do. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and advocate that like a black person can never run for the highest office. It's insane, right? But if you do, you have to overcome that hurdle with charisma. You have to overcome that hurdle with.
Super chatted $9.99. Yeah, but Diet MAGA will give a brain tumor if you have it too much.
It'll give a big, beautiful brain tumor. We want you to drink the Diet MAGA and get the... No. They need a Diet Trump if they're really going to do Diet MAGA. So I shouldn't give them the idea.
Good policies. You have to overcome that hurdle by actively communicating to every single person that you see them, you hear them, you know exactly what their pain is, and you are going to do something to solve that problem they're experiencing.
Look, funny enough, that's something that Bill Clinton was good at. Bill Clinton, by the way, total scumbag. Probably Epstein could have said shit about him, right? Most likely, just like about Trump. Epstein could have said shit about Trump if he hadn't been Epsteined. He could have had a lot to say about both Clinton and Trump. So, yeah, Clinton's a piece of shit, but he was good at his famous tagline was "I feel your pain." No, and did he feel your pain? Probably not. Probably not.
Answers for the housing crisis that people are living under right now.
But people believed he did. People thought that he did.
600,000 people are sleeping outside.
Obama had the risk too.
Every goddamn night. If you have no answers for that, if you have no answers for any of the issues that people are...
Oh my God. What the saddest thing is that you do see... Look at that. So there's a reduction since 2000 into 2010, into 2015 and 16. Trump gets into office. Look at this. Oh my gosh. Will you look at that? That's the Trump administration where it turns. But unfortunately, that's the Biden administration. That's the Biden administration right there. At the very end of the graph, right? This is a bad look for both Trump and Biden.
Are experiencing, then yeah, they're gonna punish you. They're just not gonna. They're not gonna.
And is it?
Peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
Is it Biden's fault that he dealt with unprecedented inflation, global inflation? No, it's not.
But now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
But as a Democratic president, you should be ready to deal with suffering imposed on the people. That's the one promise the Democratic Party did. What the New Deal was it was the Democratic Party to control the misery inflicted on working people during downturns in the economy. And in this case, we're talking about inflation and the combination of stagnant wages, right? That feels like a recession to everyday people. But instead the Biden administration tried to gaslight people that they weren't feeling any pain. Look at that. The unemployment rate is good and inflation is coming down. And, never mind that the greedflation is still hitting us. Never mind that people can't afford shit. Let's just brag about the economy, Jack.
They're not going to vote at all. You cannot always rely on the Republican Party increasingly making the situation worse and worse and worse and worse year after year to then win an election. Okay,
BKK says Trump created a bigger deficit. Yeah, Republicans always do. You can look at this. You can look at the deficit during any administration, and almost without exception, you're going to see a lower deficit or even a surplus under Democratic administrations, and you're going to see a higher deficit under Republican administration, and that includes Trump. That most definitely includes Trump. That includes Reagan.
And then
these are a couple of the worst offenders.
Tag to the center, where the ratchet effect happens every cycle. Republicans fuck shit up. Democrats fix some of it, but barely. People are still hurting. Republicans win again. Fuck shit up further. Countries move to the right in the process. over and over and over again.
So if the analysis and the immediate aftermath is they have to move to the center, I mean, what is the center? Because I disagree that is it, but I want to hear what is the center? Because you're not the only person, to be clear, I've heard say that. Yeah. I've heard, the Democrats been in my phone this morning.
The center are of the people I described before. I'm not even talking about an issue. We can talk about issues. The people I described before who bounce back and forth, who play between the 45-yard lines, that tends to win elections if you look historically where it is. So that's my feeling. And we can agree to disagree.
All right. So we also have with us U.S. Special Correspondent for BBC.
Yeah, he had no answer. He had no answer for it. It's so dumb. It's just like such a stupid argument. It is one where you are slated for defeat regardless. If you say like you care about trans people, then everyone's gonna be like, oh, I guess you want everyone to be trans. It's like, dude, I'm not gonna argue with your hallucinations, okay? That's not how this works. It's the same as like gay people, okay? Shut the fuck up. There's a finite amount of people who are trans. There's a finite amount of people who are gay. And yes, when society inevitably progresses and we're more open-minded and we update the way we understand gender and yeah, the finite amount of trans people are going to be comfortable coming out and being trans. As a trans provider, I wish more guys like you were more secure in their masculinity, protect trans kids and peoples. You are legit on it. Yeah, it's just so dumb. It's so dumb. It's so dumb to like hyper focus on the You're a weird loser, okay? You're either a weird loser who has been primed by other weird losers that are deliberately...
Okay, so, like I don't always agree with Hassan's take on these issues, but I do agree with this take that he has is actually really good when applied to a lot of things, right? When we're talking about trans people participating in sports, when we're talking about trans medical care, those are issues that should never be politicized. That is not a political issue. That is an issue between, the sports scientists and the governing bodies of different sports and the athletes playing those sports. That is an issue between the, healthcare provider and the patient. And the moment that
So peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communists invading.
the moment that right wingers are allowed to put their greasy fingerprints
But now there are freaking communists invading
all over a doctor-patient relationship or all over the governance of a sporting league, right? They're gonna fuck it up. They're gonna fuck it up. And it's not a political issue to begin with. It's a technocratic, or in this case, medical / sports science issue. And it should be left to that.
You to hyper focus on this and be extremely invested.
Like, what's next? We're gonna reply to like, no, we're gonna make a bill banning all litter boxes in children's schools. No more litter boxes, haha. No more litter boxes. No more furry cosplay. We're gonna ban it all. Anything that you think is going on, we'll ban satanic pedophiles from eating pizza. How about that? Yeah, we'll just like literally play to the fringes of the right-wing conspiracy theorists, to the sweatiest hogs out there. And you empower them. All right, speaking about empowering sweaty hogs, we got some Cenk Uygur content to take a look at here. TYT debates. Who is this? Who is this? This is Cenk Uygur, Jules and Jordan. So I don't know these other two co-hosts. I guess I'm not keeping up with TYT as well as I should. Narwhal by Nature, thank you for the 5 gifted. Getting us to 66%. That is 2/3 of the way towards the sub goal for tonight. So yeah, we've got this debate here. This might be what you came for. I don't know. It depends on if you clicked on the thumbnail or not. Let's change the title here. Cenk Uygur, TYT, in parentheses, TYT, yeah. TYT, punches left or punches left, or blames radical leftists for Kamala's loss. There's kind of a theme, if you haven't noticed, right? There's kind of a theme going on, and Jink's gonna complete the pattern for us. So hold on here. Let me take a look. What's up, Natalie Murray? Let me take a look at where we're at right now. It looks like 41% of you are voting for the Israel officials ban children's art as the bonus content. 30% of you want to see Destiny call Asmongold a slur. And 15% of you want to see the new Tyler Oliveira content about the German far right. Some would call them something that rhymes with Yahtzee. But some would say that's really bad and you shouldn't do that. How dare you call them that? That's really mean. And gaming, Metaphor, Refantasia, or Fallout New Vegas, that's in 4th place, right? So remember to get your vote in if you haven't already. It's on the main stream, the full-scale stream, the full-size stream, that you can vote. And so if you need to come over from Twitch or from YouTube Shorts, feel free to do that. Just, if you could, leave me a like while you're there, because it helps me out a lot. That helps us decide what bonus content to watch. The other thing that helps us decide is when you donate, whether it's through a super chat, super sticker, through a membership, through gifting memberships, through signing up for Patreon, through donating to my Throne account, or through getting yourself a Prime on Twitch. Yes, we're streaming on multiple platforms here. Anything at all counts as a donation and drives our dono goal forward, helping us to get bonus content after the stream would be over otherwise. And also, you're able to tell me in the comments which of these topics is tickling your fancy, and I'll be sure to put your money where your mouth is, adding your donation as a percentage to the topic of your choice as like a buff. You know, if it's getting 40% and you donate a $6 super chat, it'll be 46%. That's how it works. So anyway, let's get on with this TYT tent and see what's up. See what's up with Uncle Jink. Uncle Jink Uger.
Kamala Harris lost, and who gets the blame continues to rage, and we're even going to have a debate amongst ourselves here in a bit. But first, somebody who worked on the campaigns of Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, and Kamala Harris has something to say. Take a look.
Is it James Carville? No.
I'm not concerned right now what the right thinks about the Democratic Party. I'm concerned about what I think about the Democratic Party. I don't like to echo the congressmen, all three of them. I don't like the fact that a small portion of our party is pretty much dictating where we are.
It's so wild that you would say that in a party that is ruled by its centrists, by its most right-wing elements. It's so wild that you would say it's those damn activists out there that are controlling the whole party.
That they are pretty much.
If we can punch left more, maybe we can dishearten our base even more and get less votes. You want to go for like 20 million less than Biden? You want to become a third party? What do you want? What do you want?
We are being branded as a.
I mean, look, they're going to get what they ask for if that's what they're going to do, right? This is the kind of time that there could be a radical shift, a realignment, or any sort of thing, and this could, leave one or more of the current political parties in the dust heap of history, along with the Whig Party. If the Democrats don't do their job of securing some kind of social contract between workers and capital, which is, when they were most successful in the post-New Deal days, right? When it was a consensus, even among Republicans, even Eisenhower had a ridiculously high, but probably effective, highest marginal tax rate. They are not keeping their part of the bargain. They are not justifying their fucking existence. Instead, they're trying to be Diet Reagan. Instead, they're trying to be Diet Trump. Instead, they're trying to be Diet MAGA. And nobody wants that flavor. Nobody needs that flavor. That is a political establishment without a constituency. And that will go the way of the neocons very quickly.
Most extreme of us. It is not only politically problematic, as we just saw, because none of this stuff helped the other day. Without a doubt, it's a problem. But we need to take stock of why we're being held hostage to the far left. No one should be and wants to be kowtowing to the extremes of their own parties.
That was Felipe Reines, longtime Democratic consultant who has lost 3 different presidential campaigns.
Congratulations.
So how has the
That's your perfect loser liberal right there.
Democratic Party been held hostage by the left?
Like I said, they're the team. They're not the Harlem Globetrotters. They're the team that plays the Harlem Globetrotters. The Republican Party, unfortunately, since the 1980s, has been the Harlem Globetrotters. They are just there to fucking lose.
Take a look.
And if they don't lose in the election, they end up losing in the policy. They end up losing by compromising. They end up losing by showing no fucking spine. This is the problem with the Democratic Party. Not that they're not close enough, not that they're not similar enough to the Republican Party, but they are too damn fucking similar. People cannot tell the difference. You saw Donald Trump flank Kamala Harris on issues like Gaza in this election.
The majority of Democrats don't agree with the things that we are being tagged with. Now, how that
Tick
works
through a couple of those things.
I think Democrats believe in common sense stuff more than you realize. I mean, it's not like any of us sit at home and don't talk to anyone. Most Democrats I know think there's a huge problem at the border. Most Democrats I know think, frankly, that males at birth shouldn't play in women's sports.
Look, there's a lot of Democrats who think that since Kamala Harris and Joe Biden endorsed the Republican bill, endorsed by Trump before he found out that Joe Biden was actually willing to sign it, most Democrats think that that is the correct position, and they don't really understand. Like, what are they supposed to think? What are they supposed to think when the other side of the political equation fucking caves?
And vice versa. Now, you can have a healthy conversation with them.
And what is the rest of the coalition that makes up the Democratic Party supposed to think when they see the Democrats throw people under the bus like this? What are they supposed to fucking think?
Party, and you have
is that going to encourage greater cohesion?
In room within a party for all this. But at the end of the day, if you have some of these issues that are 80-20 across the country, you really got to figure out why they're being so tagged with one. And on one hand, it's easy because it's politically sexy. There's a reason why $40 million in ads on this topic were thrown at the vice president.
But that's not all. He went on to add Medicare for all as an issue that's holding the Democratic.
That's the problem. The bill that the Democratic Party has refused to hold a vote for, right? That issue, the issue that they've never brought to Congress.
Democrats hostage and took a swipe at Bernie Sanders. Take a look.
It's like Medicare for all is not something that the bulk of the Democratic Party believes in, but yet we spend tons of time on it. Now, on immigration, there are people who do believe.
What is he talking about? Now the Republican Party did do like anti-trans ads. They were very specific, right? They were accusing Kamala Harris of having a policy whereby imprisoned undocumented immigrants were given gender confirming care. But that's a policy that existed under Trump. That's a policy that already existed.
And I think I buy into it, that part of the problem we've had as Democrats.
And again, that's actually an issue between a patient and a doctor, not an issue, to be politicized. But they're able to do this because you remember the ad's not just, fuck Kamala Harris because she wants to give undocumented immigrants, gender confirming surgery, right? It wasn't just that. It was like she's spending the money that she should be spending on you, on they, them. That was the ad. That's an ad that you can only run when there's a perception that the Democratic Party, the party again that's supposed to enforce some kind of social contract. This is what they've done since the New Deal, some kind of social contract that links the productivity of the working class to the pay rate of the working class, and that offers a safety net for the working class when the economy or conditions such as COVID, which created, inflation, make the situation unlivable. They have failed to fulfill that part of the contract. And that's why they leave this opening. There's no there with they, them without they're not here for you. And that becomes the Achilles heel, the thing that the Democrats have tried to do to tack right, to make themselves more like a Reagan-esque party, while the Republicans go off the fucking deep end to the right. That's why the American people do not trust the Democratic Party. And that's why they're open to finding another to blame, somebody you do not understand, somebody you cannot relate to, and somebody they can tell you, oh yeah, they're getting all the goodies. They're getting all the goodies. They're getting all the freaking goodies.
Is that we have gotten pulled to the left.
You want to know where your jalapeno poppers went? Some trans illegal immigrant took them. All the trans illegal immigrants. That's where all the money went. That's why you can't have jalapeno poppers at Applebee's.
So far that we can't make common sense decisions. And look, I worked for Hillary and she had to contend with Bernie. Bernie, went after Biden. I shouldn't say went after. He entered the primary. There's no evidence.
Bernie went after Biden? Excuse me? Okay, thank you for correcting yourself, I guess. Can we watch some Harlem Shake compilations? Politics hurts my head. Well, we do have a chance to watch some bonus content, right? Check out the poll in the chat. And if you haven't voted already, you can vote. That goes whether you're in Shorts chat or Twitch chat, and you want to come over and vote in the No Comment Check on YouTube, the full-scale stream. You can vote for any one of these topics. We have Israeli official bans children's art. That's in first place. Destiny calls Asmongold a slur. Yup. That's in second place. Gaming, Metaphor Refantasio or Fallout is now in third place. And Tyler Oliveira, Nobody Wants Your Ass. You were in fourth place. But that's the score right now. Remember also, when you donate, you can let me know in the comments, or if you've already donated, you can let me know in the comments which of these topics appeals to you, and I'll be more than happy to put your money where your mouth is, adding your donation as a percentage to buff the topic of your choice and add points to its overall score, thus helping it win. Is Applebee's still doing those cheap, watered-down Long Island iced teas? I haven't either. Nobody's invited me to Applebee's in a while.
That the Bernie Sanders wing of the Democratic Party has met with any success or represents this party. Yet, we're going to go ahead and we're going to continue every time someone on the hard left says, you can't do that. We're all going to paralyze.
So what do Democratic voters actually think? We pulled the data. On immigration, 59% of Democrats and 64% of independents support the bipartisan immigration bill that passed in the Senate before Trump schemed with House Republicans to kill it. You can see that data.
The thing is, that's not a good bill. And the thing is, giving in to Republicans does not help on this issue.
There. Okay, so what about the next topic? How about trans rights? 80% of Democrats and 46% of independents would support
Democrats need to realize that half of their problem is an overall perception of weakness. When the Republicans get criticized for their policies, they double down, with very few exceptions. When the Democrats get criticized for their policies, they cave in.
Candidate who supports trans.
That is not a way to inspire any kind of confidence in your political party.
Rights. The support does decline when you ask voters about trans women in women's sports. Just 26% of US adults think trans athletes should play on teams that match their identity. What about Medicare for all? 72% of Democrats and 46% of independents support a universal government-run system. You can see that data there. So the question is,
the more the Democrats play into the trans stuff, the more they try to distance themselves from any kind of, from not disenfranchising people from sports because they're trans, the more they make something that's not a political issue into an issue. That's, like I said, an issue for the sports leagues to decide. Leave it up to sports scientists, all right? That's not for Congress to decide. That's not for Matt Walsh to decide. That's not for some fucking yokel shitbag to decide, right? This by itself is a niche issue that the Republicans are, obsessed with trans women. I wonder what's on their hard drives. I wonder what's on their phones. I mean, really, this is, tale as old as time. They're weird obsessions. And when they do this shit, and when they turn this into like a main, political issue, they look like weirdos.
Of these issues affect how voters behave.
But when you have, a Cenk Uygur out there that's going to be like, oh no, absolutely not. That's a non-starter. That's a, it's common sense.
In the ballot box. According to a Gallup poll in late September, the top issue for voters was, unsurprisingly, the economy. Only 10% of voters said it was either somewhat or not important, with everyone else saying it was either extremely important or very important. Immigration on this list of priorities ranked 5th, with 72% of voters saying it was either extremely or very important. Healthcare ranked 7th at 37% extremely important and 42% very important. And all the way at the very bottom, ranked 22nd of the 22 issues surveyed, transgender rights, with just 25% saying it was somewhat important and 36% said it was not important. So I guess Cenk and Jules, we're gonna have a little bit of a debate here. There are a lot of people, a lot of pundits, a lot of...
Yeah, tell me, one in chat, if you would be, would you be...
But now there are freaking communists invading...
Would you feel awkward debating your boss? That's what they're about to do here.
Democratic officials saying, this is why she lost. That's why she lost. They should have done this differently. They should have done that differently. Okay, everyone...
How new are these two to TYT? Maybe I just haven't watched TYT in a long time, and they're like all over the network, but...
Everyone's gonna have a different opinion, of course. But for what Felipe Reigns is saying here...
What's up, winners and losers?
That the Democrats are held hostage by the left and on issues of immigration and trans rights. That's why she lost, and there's nothing that they can do about it unless they kind of purge these people from the base. Do you agree with him? Am I misinterpreting it? I'm curious what you both think.
Yeah, so I've got a definitive yes and no.
He's been there for a few years.
So first, I do think the party, that's what we're gonna...
We got three very different sets of facial hair here,
At a minimum debate, because I know Jordan disagrees. But the first thing that we have to do is clarify the parts where we all agree he's wrong, okay? So there are, in my opinion, 3 wings of the Democratic Party at this point. There's what I call the 2016 Bernie wing, which is economic populist, Medicare for all, paid family leave, $15 minimum wage, etc.
And screw the woke. Remember? Bernie does not believe in cancel culture.
I think all 3 of us are in that camp, okay? Then there is the 2020 Kamala, where you take Bernie's economic populism, and what she did was, because she was floating in the wind and she saw the leftists that were ascending.
Okay, I just want to point out that whatever he's about to say about Kamala Harris's 2020 campaign went for Bernie's 2020 campaign as well.
He thought at the time, so going defund the police, trans people getting...
Was Kamala Harris to the left of Bernie in 2020? I don't think so.
Surgery.
What is Cenk smoking?
They're undocumented immigrants, all of those...
Yeah, that was on the platform. Everybody gets surgery. Everybody's gonna get surgery.
Positions that I view to be...
Whether you like it or not.
Okay, and I think clearly the voters view to be extreme. So Kamala 2020 hurts the party. In my opinion,
we're going to abolish gender under my administration.
There's the 3rd wing of the party, which is
gender abolition will proceed.
Major wing, unfortunately, that we all disagree with here on this panel.
Everyone will be required to come up with their own neo-pronouns.
Which is Hillary 2016 and in a lot of ways Kamala 2024, where they come back to the corporate positions and they go, not only do I not agree with you on some of these trans issues, but screw Medicare for all, screw helping the average American, I'm going back to my corporate donors. And that's a disaster. And can we all stipulate that that is the #1 reason that they lost? Because they served their donors and not their voters?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, Jules. Do you
to
agree
an
with
extent, yeah.
I mean, there's an article about this, I think, in Rolling Stone.
I mean, I agree to an extent. I think the issue might be on my end a lot simpler, which is, when I hear Reigns talk like this, and he's this front-running member of the DNC, he's reflecting this fact that Democrats have emphatically proven that they cannot be the solution to the problems that we have, because their primary goal is shutting down socialist or progressive movements, not taxing billionaires, not providing health care, not helping children. You see this time and time again, how much more time they spend blaming the left for their failures, because they're not addressing the key problems that we're running into. And I think that's the biggest reason Kamala lost. I think, sweeping, getting popular vote, like Electoral College, House, Senate, I think sweeping proves that this is the death of neoliberalism, not like, oh, the left is going too far again. Like I call this a Christo-fascist era, where things are not going back to the way that they were, and this is their fault. So listening to this honestly pisses me off that, like, oh, cool, we're getting blamed for the problems that they caused.
Yeah, again, I think we totally agree on that. So, and the reason that they blame the left instead of actually delivering for the voters is because the left actually challenges their power. They could lose their party within the party, and then they got nothing, right? If they lose primaries, they're toast. So whereas if they lose a general election, who cares? They just come back and do it again, raise more money, keep more of it, etc. So,
why can't I find this article?
Jules, what you're saying is something very similar to what
I thought it was Rolling Stone.
The #1 issue is that they're serving their corporate donors and never delivering for the voters. And they want to distract you from that. So every time they lose, and no leftist lost, every time they lose, they blame the left. So we all agree on that. So let's get to the part we disagree on.
Here we go.
So in my opinion, the GOP does this every single time. I've literally covered it for for a quarter of a century. Feel bad saying that, but I have for straight. And what they do is they go.
It's a good time as any to take a look at this article. Dim insiders begged Team Harris not to campaign with Liz Cheney. People don't want to be in a coalition with the devil, said a Democratic source who was appalled at Harris's embrace of Dick Cheney. Yeah, they were asking George W. Bush, can we roll Red Rover, let W come over. They don't seem to understand certain political figures that the left and the right have rejected. So I guess this is like one of those, I only get to read one for free and I already read the wrong one. Kamala Harris's 2024 campaign started out fun, rat summer. It opened with the politics of joy, a hearty dose of mockery. I'm tempted to read this in the Bernie Sanders voice, aimed at Donald Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance. The campaign quickly adopted a different tack, attempting to project strength and leadership and the most deadly military, most lethal military, which everybody wants, right? Can we have a more lethal military, please? I would like to kill more people. While courting support from Republicans concerned about the threats posed by Trump. Republicans with zero aura.
Further and further and further until they find the most extreme positions that the left is willing to defend. And then they go, aha, that's what the whole left is. And every time they do that, they'll find some leftists who'll go, I'll fall right into that trap. And I feel like
leftist. Does he know what a leftist is?
It's a trap.
Ooh.
So one of the things.
Ooh. Does he know? Is he doing what I think he's doing? Has Jink been? Did Jink lurk on 4chan like 10 years ago or something? I don't know. Saying we need a more lethal military is given the shit that is going on right now, is the most unbelievable.
Is so indicative. What have I been telling you guys? We fight for trans rights. They have complete equality. They get, whether it's, healthcare, employment, constitutional rights, you name it. And the American people are on our side, and the Democratic.
Oh wait, chat, I opened it up in Firefox. Here, let me read it to you. I just can't show it to you. Kamala Harris is 20. Okay, so attempting to protect strengthen leadership while courting support from Republicans concerned about the threat posed by Trump. That approach culminated in Harris campaigning with former Republican Representative Liz Cheney and touting an endorsement from her father, Vice President and Iraq War architect Dick Cheney. The pitch bombed with Republicans as Democrats' share of moderates and independents fell overall, and Democratic support crumbled too. Now, several Democratic operatives and insiders are telling Rolling Stone they tried to convince Harris's campaign and her allies that palling around with the Cheneys was a bad idea, with little upside, and could harm Harris's support amongst disaffected Democratic voters. The source requested anonymity to discuss sensitive inter-party matters. One source close to Harris's campaign tells Rolling Stone they reached out to several staffers in and around the campaign to voice concern about the candidates' embrace of Dick and Liz Cheney. People don't want to coalition with the devil, says one source, speaking about Dick Cheney. They say that a Harris staffer responded that it was not staff's role to challenge the campaign's decision. A Democratic strategist says they warned key Harris surrogates and top-level officials at the Democratic National Committee that campaigning with Liz Cheney and making the campaign's closing argument about how many Republicans were supporting Harris was unlikely to motivate any new swing voters and risked dissuading already despondent infrequent Democratic voters who had supported Biden in 2020. The strategists say they also attempted to have big donors and battleground state party chairs convey the same argument to Harris's campaign. Another Democratic operative close to Harris World, says they sent memos and data to the Harris campaign staffers, underscoring how, amongst other things, Republican voters, believe it or not, vote Republican, you don't say. And that the data over the past year screamed that Democrats instead needed to reassure and energize the liberal base and dim-leaning working class in battleground states. We were told basically, get lost, no thank you, says the operative. A Harris spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Following the Harris's campaign crushing loss to Trump, there's an argument made by that Democrats never really stood a chance this election cycle given Joe Biden's unpopularity and Americans' unhappiness with the brutal economy. But Harris exerted far more effort attempting to appeal to Republicans, moderates, and independents than the Democratic base, which has been demoralized in part by Biden's continued support for Israel's brutal war in Gaza. Exit polls suggest Democrats had major turnout issues. The portion of the 2024 electorate that identified as Democratic declined significantly compared with past presidential elections. Former White House press secretary and MSNBC host Jen Psaki said on Friday on Morning Joe that Democrats had spent too much time listening to and lifting up Republicans who left Trump and the Never Trump movement. People who left the Democratic Party are the people who are going to win the future, she said. The people who left Trump, the Never Trumpers who have important voices, that is not a winning coalition. Interestingly, Bill Kristol, a top Never Trump Republican, this is a right-wing guy, not anti-Trump, but that's about it, right? Publicly urged Harris in the final weeks of the campaign to pitch a progressive, populist, economic message against Trump and his army of billionaire supporters. In late October, he wrote on X, feels like maybe Kamala Harris should embrace Elizabeth Warren's ultra-millionaire tax and barnstorm on that for the next few days. Wow.
Parties on our side, and Jordan just showed that to you. 80% of Democrats agree with that, 52% of all Americans agree with that, even despite all of this overwhelming propaganda against the trans community. But the minute you get the trans people playing in, trans women playing in women's sports, it falls off a cliff, and all of a sudden you're down to 26%, let alone undocumented trans immigrants getting taxpayer-funded surgery.
Unless you can name how many people that applies to, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Like, her biggest failure was an inability to clap back against those criticisms. You want to talk about the need to move on? Then Kamala Harris needs to move on from Joe Biden. And she can make that argument because the problems experienced under the Biden administration were handed to him by the Trump administration. The issue of prices started because of Trump's failed response to the pandemic. If she could have spent more time talking about that and less time talking about how Trump is a danger to democracy, a message which had already failed with Biden, she might have had a better chance. But we'll never know, will we?
My guess is that polls around 2%. So, and it's not.
And on this shit, she can, and she did. She started to say, like, I mean, I've heard her response to this, that policy offering gender confirming surgery to undocumented prisoners was the same as under Trump. That's a continuation of Trump's policy, right? Because again, that policy is a question between doctor and patient. That's not a question between that should be litigated in the political arena. And that's all you need to say. And she had the right instincts on that, just not the wherewithal to actually put together an effective ad to counterbalance that. The other thing that would have counterbalanced that message, because remember, the message is not just she supports they, them, right? It's she doesn't support you. Well, fucking support people. Do something for people. Push the Biden administration to create a more resilient social safety net in a way that's universal, in a way that's for everyone. Instead of, reducing the stimulus payment by $600, they should have been looking for different ways to put more money in everyone's pocket, not just a child tax credit, not just something that's directed at parents, something that helps everyone. That is the role that Democrats have fulfilled. And I am saying this as somebody who does not, who is to the left of liberalism, who is to the left of the Democratic Party. But even I can tell them that they're not living up to their bargain, to their New Deal with workers.
An accident that the Trump team, once they started running that ad, saw in great polling out of that ad and ran it again and again and again. And by then it was their number 1 ad and they'd run it for $40 million worth. So are you guys saying that ad didn't hurt and that we should keep going in that direction?
I'm not going to repeat myself.
I don't know. It's going to be hard to quantify what effect it had, but based on not just that one Gallup poll, but exit polls, other public opinion polls of what people's priorities were, we saw for months in the run-up and in the immediate aftermath, voters were largely motivated by the economy, economic policy, and their material conditions. So I think it might have changed the perception, but I don't think it was what motivated people to either stay home or vote against Harris or vote for Trump. You look at where it ranked on that list. I mean, there was 22 different topics on there, and it was dead last.
Again, the demagoguery that the Republicans want to do, whether it's against immigrants or trans people, or in this case, the 2 or 3 trans immigrants that might have received gender confirming care, right? This shit doesn't work. This shit doesn't matter when you're not failing the job of making sure that American workers can afford to pay for the things that they need. And that's done through raising the minimum wage once in a while, at the very least. And that's also done through instituting social safety net programs when they are needed, instituting them universally. Because the whole thing with capitalism is that it's got recession, depression, inflation, and all the other kinds of economic misery baked into the cake. It's going to happen. It's going to happen, right? So the whole New Deal, the whole compromise between workers and capital that the Democrats negotiated back in the 30s and 40s was to maintain a buy-in for workers
up here, but now there are freaking communists invading
into the economy, into the profits, into the productivity. They no longer have that. Their wages are flat. Their prices go up what do you think they're going to feel? And when you tell them there is no recession, which is true, that, you know, what we had wasn't a recession, and they're fucking miserable, they're going to say that you're blowing smoke up their ass. You've got to do something. And I hate to be putting the political consultant hat on for the Democrats, chat, because like I said, I'm not a Democrat. I think America needs something a little stronger medicine than anything liberalism is willing to offer. I see the liberal and the conservative parties, the Democrat and the Republican parties, as two sides of capitalism incorporated. And I think that that is a mode of production we need to move past. But we're lacking the class consciousness to do that. People don't even realize when you think that you've got more separate from each other than you have in common, when you think that a undocumented worker is not going through the same kind of trials and tribulations as you are, maybe to a greater extent, it's not when you don't realize that that person is putting food on your table, and that without that person, your food would be even more expensive, right? And whether we're talking about, agricultural, whether we're talking about, harvesting, or whether we're talking about, meat packing and slaughtering, that work is done by these people that Trump is demonizing. And if he does succeed in deporting everyone from the country, we will all be worse for it. This is an argument that was never fucking made. This is an argument that you never heard, because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris caved into Trump's policy in the springtime.
So
loser liberals.
They run it the most, Jordan. Why did it work the best?
I don't even think that it worked the best, because I was just in Arizona and Nevada multiple times over the past couple months, and I saw the ad of her on The View saying there was nothing different that she would do than what Biden did. I saw that way more.
Yeah, this is huge.
Than the trans ad. And then within that, they just conflated the Biden administration, the 4 years of Biden, with Kamala Harris.
Yeah, and that's the argument that she needed to be at least fighting back on.
And they said, we can't afford.
And there is a route for fighting back on it. But you gotta have some teeth, you gotta have a spine, and you gotta take on the fucking corporations.
4 more years.
You gotta have less Hillary Clinton and more Bernie Sanders. If that's the kind of campaign that you want to run, and that should be the campaign that you want to run if you don't want to become as irrelevant as the Whig Party.
But that was not their number one ad. Their number one ad was the trans ad. And because it was just polling through the roof.
It's also a messaging thing. And here's the thing. The Harris campaign did not have their hands tied. They had 3 times the money. They had $1 billion. They had an ad budget of $700 million. They spent $40 million on that ad. Get out and spend 80, spend 120 on
defending your most unpopular position?
No, you need a simple message on that, and you shouldn't throw trans people under the bus. You don't just abandon something because it's inconvenient.
But that's not throwing trans people under the bus.
Yes, it is.
Wait, an undocumented immigrant comes into the country and says, I demand knee surgery.
That's not her policy.
But brother, you just got here. What are you demanding surgery from me for?
That is such an outlier.
Do you understand also that you're opening the door to denying all kinds of medical care to all people? If they can successfully agitate, to take the healthcare away from the 2 to 3 individuals that this might actually apply to, right? Then next they're gonna, well, why should we be paying for prisoners' medical care at all? Okay, why should we? I mean, these are the people that say they want to take down Obamacare. They're going to pay for a lot less people's medical care in general, and you have just opened the door to that. You have set the precedence of weakness and of a lack of fighting back. And you have told all of your constituencies that when the time comes, you too will be thrown under the bus. That does not make a strong party. That makes a weak party. And the Democrats are a historically and profoundly weak party, and they have been such ever since the Reagan era.
It's not even her policy. It wasn't in her platform. It was
Except
something
it
from
was her policy in
4 years ago. She mentioned it at an event. It wasn't in part of her platform.
All right, so let's go to Jules.
Well, Jake, I think what you're doing, and I love you, but I think you're falling for a massive trap that Republicans never fall for, which is, like you said, they set up this domino of this tiny issue that rounds down to zero and say this is the biggest issue of the election. And like Democrats, not like leftists, but Democrats will jump in and say like, well, actually, here's the stats about this. So actually, like, we don't agree with let's say like, trans women in sports. But that's not what, like, when Republicans do heinous stuff, the Republicans just say, yeah, who cares? We're not even going to talk about it. Democrats insist on having the conversation about stuff that essentially doesn't happen or happens in such a small way as to be useless or ineffective to the larger story. And Democrats will jump onto it in an effort to demonize leftists and secure their own position. And that's really frustrating. Like, it's crazy to me that trans women in sports is a massive issue when, again, the percentage of people that this affects literally rounds down to zero, where stuff that actually matters and stuff that Republicans are doing.
The right answer to that question is you don't care about this issue. The Republicans are wasting your time talking about a non-existent problem. You care about money in your pocket, and our administration is going to put money in your pocket. Our administration is going to give you that piece of the pie that you've been cut out of by your fucking employer. Our administration is going to be responsible to the effects of inflation on your budget. And we're going to do the bare fucking minimum for a party that wants to call itself on the left and make sure that the working people can live like a halfway decent lifestyle. That's what shuts these bigots and assholes up and stops them from doing their demagoguing, which is an attempt to divide and conquer. And when you throw parts of your constituency under the bus, you enable that dividing and conquering. You do that work for them.
Is hand waved away with nothing, and it doesn't become part of the conversation. Nobody says, hey, we should talk about that.
Wake up. If you're going to be a liberal, don't be a fucking loser liberal. We've tried that in this country, right? That's been tried. That was not effective.
You guys are not addressing what I'm saying. So when I go on right-wing shows, I tell them, look, I'm for 100% equality and justice. That's the most American thing you could be. Trans people should have all the rights that anybody else has. And guys, this affects about 7 people in the country. You're trying to pretend that this is the most important issue. This is the least important issue, the smallest issue there is. And you know you're doing it to drive a wedge between us. And in fact, Dan Holloway, bless his heart on Drinking Bros, a right-winger, was like, you're right. That's why they call it a wedge issue, because it's supposed to drive a wedge between us. That's the right way to handle it. And so I think we all agree on that. But then you guys are saying, no, dig in.
And the other thing is, when you are the best administration, or when, Biden is, has been the best administration for labor, for unions, fight for that. Don't be afraid of that. Don't get pushed around by these donors. Don't get pushed around by these corpos into downplaying that, right? That's one thing that Biden did right.
They find the most unpopular position.
If she really wants to talk to The View and she gets asked a question of like, what did, Biden do that you don't agree with, have an answer for that. But if you want to save Biden's fucking dignity, because it's awkward since you're his vice president, then give him credit for the NLRB
position and defend it until you lose. Why? Why would you defend a position that is...
Unfortunately, his record on that isn't perfect. That, rail workers strike, he didn't do the right thing on that. But for the most part, Biden's been head and shoulders better than the post-Reagan Democrats.
Deeply unpopular.
No one's saying dig in, but don't abandon members of your community. It's the right thing to do to stand
but
up.
Who's
to
Yeah, bring people together. Don't push people apart. We've got more in common than we have separate. We've got more in common, no matter who you are, no matter whether you're trans, cis, gay, straight, whatever. No matter whether you're like a, born in America, American citizen, or no matter whether your papers are not in order and you're undocumented. You got more in common with the person harvesting your breakfast, packing your breakfast, making it so you can afford to eat, than you do with these fucking corpos like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk trying to demonize them to make you miserable, to steal your social security. Fuck those assholes. Fuck those corpos.
Them.
Harris did.
How?
The last couple weeks of the campaign, she distanced herself from trans issues, from trans rights. Because
not just the last few weeks, right? There was no acknowledgement of anything involving like trans people at the DNC.
Which trans rights, Jordan? Which trans rights? They do not have the right to demand free surgery when they come here as undocumented immigrants.
Who was doing that?
That was literally Kamala Harris's position in 2020.
It was a hypothetical. It was a hypothetical.
But no,
it was the law, and it was the law under Trump as well, right? That if you go to your doctor and you seek a certain kind of care, even if you're a prisoner, you will get it, right? That is a question between doctor and fucking patient.
Who is doing it? Is it happening at scale?
It's not even hypothetical.
How much money are we actually spending on that?
He is so full of shit. And again, how many people do you think this fucking applies to? You should know when somebody says you got to watch out. Literally, the Republicans' ad was like, you got to watch out for those trans immigrants, those trans undocumented immigrants, right? That should click somewhere. What? Is that really a thing? Is that really a line item in anybody's budget? Or is that you making up a group to demonize, to distract me from the fact that you are stealing my social security, Elon Musk?
Actually, policy under Trump too. It's not a hypothetical. It was policy, and Trump even.
There you go. That's how you run with it. That's how you run with it.
Continued it. You could have fought back that way, but guys.
I don't know how Jink was expecting to do it. What is Jink's policy? You come up with a bill of like the no trans healthcare for immigrants policy, right? You write a very weirdly specific bill. Do you know what happens when you write that bill? You take a phenomenon that is an edge case that is not really happening, and you give it life. You give it reality. You present it. Well, there's a bill about it. This must be a problem. There must be a problem if they had to write a bill about it.
So peaceful up here, but now there are freaking
look. All I can say, Jink needs to listen to his nephew more, and his co-host less.
And even if Kamala Harris did or did not defend it, you guys are defending it. It's the leftists who are saying this is the hill we're going to die on. Well, that's really ridiculous.
No, we're saying it didn't.
It's you that's saying weakness is fucking strength, you coward. You fucking coward.
It's like we're being dragged onto that hill.
He is saying that cost her the election.
Look, guys, here's how the progression goes. So they go, okay, we hate gay people. Oh, that didn't work. Back in 2004, they go, okay, well, we hate gay marriage. Oh, that did work. Okay. Now, at the time, I go, wait, are we talking about constitutional?
There were people that threw, gay marriage under the bus, right? That wanted to distance, and it was a mainstream position for certainly a presidential candidate to not say that they endorse gay marriage, or to even give some kind of Clinton-esque answer about it.
Rights? Are we talking about fundamental human rights? Okay, I know it's not a winning issue for us, but I'm going to fight on that, and I believe in gay marriage, but I could make an effective case for it. I could convince people of it, and we did. We fought and fought and fought, and we convinced people, right? So then they go, nowadays, they come back and they go, okay, well, attacking gay people is not working anymore, so let's attack trans people. It's so transparent what they're doing. And by the way, I would love for a Democratic politician to say what I'm saying now. Do you see how they're trying to drive hate towards trans people? Okay, so they attack the core of their rights, it doesn't work. Then if you remember in the beginning, Trump said they shouldn't be in the military, and that didn't work. And we're defending because that is core rights, right? Willing to die for our country? Are you kidding me? Of course we defend. They're weirdos that attack people in bathrooms. No, that's mainly straight guys, let's be honest, okay? So we defend and it doesn't work. Then they get to, they should be able to play in the WNBA and Olympics, etc. And I go, Well, I think that's up to the WNBA and that's up to the Olympics, and I'm not.
But they'd already made their decision, Jink, and they made the right decision because they're sports science and they know scientists and they know what the fuck they're talking about, and they came up with reasonable policies that demanded a certain amount of HRT and certain like blood levels of hormones. Or I mean, it's different in every sports league, right? But the sports leagues were doing fine with it. They're actually not the ones that sold us out, Jink. You are. You are. You fucking coward.
Sure that I agree
with you bloviating bag of wind.
That. And let alone the fact that I know that's a
you useless has-been.
Super unpopular position. And it is not a core right to play in the WNBA. It just isn't. But every other leftist goes, nope, Cenk, you're a fascist and you're agreeing with the right wing. We love this issue.
Would you allow any other woman to be disenfranchised from sports then? If it's not a key right? Should JD Vance be able to abolish women's sports? It's not a key right. Why are we fighting for it? It doesn't really, it's sports. It's sports. What does it matter? Let the Republicans have their way.
And of course they should. We're going to defend this 200%. And then we got smeared. So you guys made a giant mistake.
No.
I think most leftists want to talk about the economy. I think most leftists want to talk about workers' rights and free healthcare and affordable housing. But there are these fringe issues.
Yeah, Jink knows anatomy and physiology better than sports scientists. I forgot, Omega Star.
Brought to the forefront by Democrats.
Davy Cliff super chatted $9.99. Joe actually flanked Obama on gay marriage when he supported it during an interview.
Ooh, I didn't know that, Davy Cliff. Wow, that's pathetic.
By Democrats who want to say what you're saying in order to distract from those issues because they can't defend those issues. They can take this like little wedge issue and say like, well, we don't agree with trans women in sports. We don't agree with, and if you defend it, then you're being crazy. But not to do an impression of you, Cenk. But there is this lack of conversation about the things that Democrats are not doing. And I genuinely think that even having these conversations to this degree, instead of hand waving them away as being like, these are fringe issues. We can deal with them as fringe issues and not as the main issue of the campaign.
But Jules,
I think that is something that. Go ahead.
So Jules, let me agree with.
Wait, wedge issue makes me think of wedge salad. Is that what the thing with the cabbage is? You get a wedge of cabbage, and I don't even know how it works. Is that what a wedge salad is?
But then challenge you.
I feel like I was talking about this earlier in stream chat. I'm getting hungry again.
I'm agreeing with you on is when Philip Raines says, "Oh, trans undocumented again, not just trans rights, but trans undocumented immigrants asking for taxpayer-funded surgery." And then he goes, same thing as Medicare for all. No, not the same thing. Medicare for all polls at 72%. And yes, these corporate Democrats are trying to distract you from that. We all agree to that. But the Democrats didn't bring up that issue. The Republicans, the right wing brought up that issue. But when I say, hey, guys, let's get past this issue. This is not a winning issue, and I don't even agree. Then all of the leftists online said, no, we love this issue. We're going to fight on this issue.
Have the mic.
What?
You are assuming that giving into the Republicans in this issue will quiet the beast. You are making the worst mistake that you could with a demagogue. Of like, yeah, well, they're coming for trans athletes. I'm not a trans athlete. What do I care? Hand them over to the Republicans. They're coming for illegal immigrant prisoners. Hand over their medical rights too. Yeah, and where does that fucking end? Where does that end?
Democrats have the mic. Democrats are the ones who respond to these issues. Like DNC Democrats are the ones who. Leftists don't have a mic. Leftists
no, you're
can
wrong.
Only
they have a giant mic
heard.
on social media. Giant. I mean, in that segment alone, they didn't say that for no reason, and I know I lived it. They said a couple times, they're like, I'm afraid to say this because of what's going to happen on Twitter. I'm afraid to say this because are you saying that leftists don't attack others on Twitter for the slightest disagreement?
Oh, absolutely. But the point is that we're talking about being online.
I mean, you're gonna get attacked by Silly and Billy regardless, and they're gonna take your audience from you because you don't deserve your audience. Like I said, you're a has-been, Cenk.
Exactly.
And the left can do without you.
We're talking about normie voters, people who aren't chronically online like we are, and so these topics make their way to the mainstream because Democrats will do exactly that. They'll say,
like, I mean, come on, TYT is yesterday's garbage.
Being attacked for
their views are in the toilet.
Defending this issue when
their reputation is in the toilet.
You don't have to defend the issue at all. You can. I'm again saying you can hand wave it away. And
their standards are in the toilet.
About things that really matter.
But Jules, that's not what the leftists did. You're saying the exact opposite of what they did. They didn't wave it away. They said,
I'm saying that's what the people with the mic, the people who normie voters listen to, didn't do that. They started talking about, oh, we're being attacked by the left for having a reasonable position. So why are you talking about it at all? Why don't you talk about it within the fringe context that it exists and where it rounds down to zero?
Why don't you talk about something that matters to people's bottom line at the end of the day?
Our decisions to be made.
If you want to skip this issue, the best way is to not respond. And to respond with something better, something that people care about more. People don't care about the health care of like undocumented prisoners. People care about whether or not they have money in their pocket at the end of the day. It's the Democrats' job to make sure that that happens.
You have to support trans rights, but doing it through
the word on the street is that Silly and Billy are secretly vampires. Yeah, they're clout vampires. They're audience stealers. Is that what they stream audience stealers? Yeah.
Venue is crazy, and
let's cry about it. What's up, Corn Pop? Thank you for the Twitch Prime sub.
How it looks to voters. It looks like
that is a nice floral shirt. You're right, Corn Pop.
The entire Democratic Party represents
good to see you.
This fringe issue that mainstream Democrats want to defend against.
Jules, you're now saying
most people aren't online like that.
You're now saying that you agree with the position that I had, which is wave it away. This is not the hill to fight on.
You said surrender, sir. You didn't say wave it away. You said wave the white flag because, again, you're a coward.
And when I said that, the entire leftist ecosystem collapsed in on itself. How dare you? We fight on this issue. Well, how did it turn out for us? And look, Jordan,
nobody fucking fought on the issue. What are you talking about, Jenk? They literally rejected the opportunity to push back on that narrative. And I'm talking about the Harris campaign. I'm talking about what matters.
She lost the issue because she loves her corporate donors. She's talked about how I have 90 corporate CEOs.
The guy on the right looks like a mime. Oh yeah, kind of. Or yeah, like they're right.
Those who agree with me, Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney and agrees with me, and that's what cost her the election. But it was not a small issue that the #1 ad that they ran.
That's what the Democrats need to do next time. They need to run a mime. Everybody loves mimes. Mimes are great.
And the polling indicated that this was the one that worked.
They can do a thing where they're like, what? You're stuck. You're trapped in a capitalist in a late stage hyper capitalist hellscape. They should get a mime.
The best. And there's other things, guys. We said there was real crime.
Silly and Billy interviewed Jordan. I half remember that.
Leftist screen.
Oh yeah, and they also interviewed winners and losers.
There's no crime.
Shouts out to winners and losers.
It's in your imagination. Well, and they claim to represent Democratic voters. Then here in California, we had Prop 36.
Nintendo says if Kamala Harris stuck to calling the GOP weird and laid out a recovery plan, we'd be entering week 2 of Trump calling it a rigged election.
Anti-crime bill in California, not Alabama.
Stuck in an echo chamber, that's right.
California, it passed with 70% of the vote. I told you that Democratic voters do not agree with extreme leftists. They care about crime. And they don't want to pay for these surgeries, et cetera, et cetera. The polling shows I'm true. The elections show I'm overwhelmingly correct. But I guarantee you the reaction to this debate by every leftist online will be, how dare he?
Look, you know what they care about? They don't care about crime. They think that there's crime because there's homeless people, right? If you improve people's material conditions the way that a Democratic Party is supposed to do, then you will have less people out on the street. And you will erase the one thing that's reinforcing the perception of crime. There is not a rise in crime. There is a, record low of crime.
A monster. It's all his fault. And oh my God, we should double down and quadruple down.
If you get a job, you probably won't be homeless. Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that, dumbass that came into the wrong Twitch chat? Are you sure about that? You probably won't be homeless. There are people that work multiple jobs and are homeless, asshole. Thanks, try again. Jesus Christ.
He's helping their framing.
Who let the brainworms out?
Well, okay, 70%. The Democrats.
Oh, I know, it was RFK. That's right, I forgot.
Voters are definitively on my side, both on economic populism like Medicare for all.
And for God's sake, quit glazing Cenk the fuck up. What are you, some kind of TYT fan? That's cringe. That's fucking cringe.
On these social issues. We're not saying about.
I don't support cyberbullying, okay? But with TYT fans, it's like borderline. It's like border. No, I disavow. I don't support it.
And trans people. We're not saying lock up people that didn't do anything wrong or that smoked a joint. We're saying nobody said to take domestic assault and turn it into a misdemeanor. What the hell are you defending that for? Are you nuts? That's an injustice. And Democratic voters don't want it, let alone
What the fuck is Cenk talking about? This is not a campaign issue.
Republican voters. So you guys can keep emphasizing. I'm not the one emphasizing. I'm the one saying get past it. And every left-wing show online is like, don't get past it. Don't get past it.
Hubert, that's like the weirdest thing you could say.
Talk about this for months and months and months until we lose every goddamn election.
Is that your gimmick?
I don't think it's like a totally fair characterization of how people are responding to that topic or how they should engage with it. I think what's important is the context with what he was talking about was that she lost because of the extreme left and those three issues that he laid out, which is not true. This guy has worked on 2 campaigns that ran against Trump. He lost both of them. He certainly...
Did I know that Kamala started the war in Ukraine? No, but I know that Kamala declared war on your mom.
He knows losing, but he does not know how to win. And when you think about what motivates him to say it, it's much easier to scapegoat progressives and the left. And as he threw in later in a jab at Bernie Sanders, Senator Sanders and like maybe progressives in the squad, it's easier for him to scapegoat those policies, those people, that voting bloc, rather than look inward. Because to do that, he would find fault with himself, find fault with the donor class, and ultimately it would shake up and change the paradigm.
Anyway, whoever I called a dumbass, I apologize. That was mean. I shouldn't say that.
People within the party view the party. They're unwilling to do that because they are beholden to corporate interests. On that, we agree. But the thing is, ultimately, at the end of the day, you stand up for these things because it's the right thing to do, not because they're popular. And like you gained ground on marriage equality and gay rights, it might be a similar and long fight, but you shouldn't abandon it or throw
Betbridge Farms remembers?
Throw them away or throw them under the bus like Harris did simply because it's politically expedient now.
Okay, so you're okay with losing the election because you want to fight for those issues.
I don't trust that you know how to win an election, Cenk. How many have you run in? Are we going to take advice on winning elections from somebody who has only shown that he can lose them? Like, even if they let you run, even if they, even if you were on the ballot, Cenk, you would lose.
I mean, you just said it.
He already lost. That's not what I showed you the data. No one cares. No one cares. It's the last ranking issue.
You're delusional.
$40
million in ads.
The economy was the #1 issue for people. No one's going in there and be like, I'm mad about trans people, so I'm going to vote for Trump. No one did that.
You're 100% wrong.
The economy, every exit poll said it was the economy.
Right. Okay, at the very end of that ad, which worked spectacularly, you guys are denying.
Look, on the plus side, okay? On the plus side, the mainstream media that's pushing this narrative that it is the fault of trans people, of Medicare for all supporters, and of extreme leftists, whatever the fuck that means in the United States, right? That side is losing influence. That's not where people watch the election. Now, I'd be lying to you if I said that the establishment of the alternative media is going stronger, a lot stronger, and is astroturfed on the right, and is astronomically, got more reach. So, I mean, that's a bad thing. But I will say that these assholes that are trying to sell a narrative of purge the left from the Democratic Party to preserve the neoliberal policies, make those policies further to the center, I will tell you they're losing. No one is watching them. They are waning, and nobody cares what they fucking have to say.
Reality. Every poll.
And it's funny. It's funny that somebody who was very early in the alternative online media, like Cenk Uygur, is missing that boat. He is going to be on the side of the legacy media.
Showed it worked spectacularly.
Yet no one walked out and told a pollster that's why they voted.
Yeah.
Not a single person.
Yeah, I'm sure. No, the American people loved it, guys. You were right. Oh my God, they loved it. They want you to run on it again. That's such a genius idea.
That's why Trump won.
Okay, so how many times do I have to tell you that was not the #1 issue? That was but it didn't help.
Oh my God.
It helped. And besides,
winners and losers. We should play Rocket League sometime.
Which I also don't agree with you.
You're probably better than me, though. I never practice.
Guys, I don't think paying for undocumented immigrant surgery is somehow some moral, great, amazing thing that we have to fight for. We have a giant number of issues in America. If they came in and asked for hip replacement surgery, I wouldn't be in favor of it. Why are we dying on a hill? We don't have us.
What? Okay, yeah, no. What did he just say? Yeah, they don't deserve medical care at all. Let them suffer. Let them languish.
Not half of us. In terms of Democratic voters, all right, last thing.
Kick them out with their fucked up hip and all.
Can you guys be honest and say...
Is that what he's saying? Is he really embracing the fucking darkness that way?
Most Democratic voters agree with me and not...
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
You guys?
Yeah, most Democratic voters agree with me. They want Medicare for all. We just talked about it. We just agree with it.
Jordan, we all agree to that.
That'd be an extension of it. So
that
people,
would be an extension
if you're incarcerated, you don't get medical coverage. What do you think Medicare for all is? Does it cover gender-affirming care? Because in my world, it does.
Okay. God bless you. You run the next.
Yeah, no, seriously. Oh my God, no, he doesn't. He doesn't. He wouldn't. They would come for that too. They will come for that. Trump has spoken about coming for, I mean, not just whether or not Medicaid pays for stuff like that, but whether or not adults can get, gender-related health care.
Next election on that. I want the rest of the country to know that the great majority of Democratic voters do not believe in those issues. They believe in protecting everyone's constitutional rights.
I want you to know, Cenk, that you're old as fuck and you don't know what you're talking about.
But they don't agree with these fringe issues. And here we are making the same exact mistake where we are.
Go follow your co-host onto Substack and onto Irrelevancy.
Defending something that is indefensible, and whether it, like, you're falling back on this simple thing of like, it's not the #1 issue, so it didn't hurt. No, that is not a logical connection. It doesn't have to be the #1 issue for it to hurt our chances of winning.
I think he meant conclusion.
Besides which, again, I don't agree. I don't agree that more crime is such a great thing, or that crime doesn't exist, or that taking a whole bunch of felonies that were terrible crimes and turning them into misdemeanors is somehow justice. It's not justice. It's the exact opposite.
Crime exists, but tough on crime policies were a failure. We tried that. We tried broken windows policing. It doesn't fucking work. Crime rates were high as fuck back then.
That's why the overwhelming majority of Democratic voters agree with me. But what we do on the Young Turks, guys, and the most important part of this entire conversation is, did we not know this was going to be a debate? We did. That's why we said it in the beginning. But we have these conversations, no matter who you agree with. We air out these opinions, and then you get to make up your mind. I love that Jordan and Jules passionately defend their position, and that's how we do it on the Young Turks. We'll be back.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it.
Your positions are completely ridiculous, and they are what caused Trump to become president. But I appreciate you being on here to say them. Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. That's super weird. Cenk, you're a fucking weirdo. I don't know what to say. I used to respect you. What happened? I watched TYT so little. I found MR fast. Fortunately for politics, that's bullcrap. Cenk, majority of our party believes in no bigotry. He's acting like they're honest, except his entire company. Yes! Oh my God, yes. Massive hypocrite. The home of progressives, my ass. And we're not just talking about social issues either. We're talking about union issues that are designed to put food on people's tables and to control the exploitation that invariably happens under capitalism. We're talking about an integral part of any kind of social contract that the Democratic Party is going to try to enforce in order to make capitalism livable. Oh, you're playing hoops. Yeah, I've never tried that. Wait, low diamond? That's pretty good. No, I don't know. I never stick with the game long enough. That's my problem. Yeah, but that's Jink Uger. So let me take a look here at our poll. Looks like 36% of you are voting for Israeli official bans children's art. 26% of you are voting for Destiny calls Asmongold a slur. 20% of you want to see me do some gaming, either Metaphor, Refantasio, or Fallout New Vegas. And 17% of you want to see Tyler Oliveira's newest video about the German far right. We are 76% of the way towards the dono goal, towards any of that happening. And so far, I've only logged like 1% for the Israel story. So I guess that's ahead. But if you've donated and I haven't added your donation as a percentage to the topic of your choice, let me know. Let me know, especially if that's if you've donated recently on PayPal or on Patreon, and you're in the chat, right? If you make that kind of donation, I try to wait until you're in the chat, so that your donation applies to that sub goal and to the topic of your choice. You can let me know which of these topics tickles your fancy. I will add it as a percentage to the topic of your choice, thus helping your topic win by buffing it. You get to basically buff the percentage in the poll, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think we're gonna consolidate streams now. So if you're watching me on Shorts, we invite you to come along into the full screen stream. That is this link right here. You want to press this now. Otherwise, I'm going to end the stream, and you might be rated into, you might be not. I'm not sure how it works, but if you want to make sure that you get in the stream, which is not ending quite yet, you can just click on that link, and I will see you over on the full scale stream on YouTube. Twitch, stay where you are. I'm still sticking with you. All right, so end the wouldn't it be funny if I ended the wrong stream? It actually wouldn't. It'd be bad. Omega